Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the penultimate round of this year's ASR GT3 World Championship, powered by Endurance Chat, a RWEC production. It's the 90 minutes of Monza, the one track that has featured every single year for the endurance discipline here in ASR. And it's a track that throws up its fair share of interesting storylines, whether they be safety car riddled events, or in the case of last year, a flag-to-flag fuel mileage miracle. I don't know which one we're going to get tonight, but either way, whatever way the cookie crumbles, we should say, this track seems to have a nature of throwing up the interesting finishes. And with only one round left to go after tonight, with two races at Bahrain, and the third race, of course, is tonight. It's a very, very tight championship battle. This could be a championship-defining moment for this year's GT3 honours. And it's only a two-man show tonight. It's myself, Steve DeVries, and pleasure to welcome the only man that's actually from the commentary team that's been to this track in real life, in Josh Baggs. G'day, Josh.
Hey there, how you going? Good to be back. We've had a bit of a break, and it's nice to be back watching the GT3s at Monza, which is, as you said, always a absolutely brilliant track. Has put on some good racing for pretty much every race we've had here, and fingers crossed it'll provide again. A little bit down on numbers tonight, but we have had races that have had similar numbers here with very exciting results, so don't let that discourage you if you're just tuning in. There's every chance, especially over a 90-minute race. It's one of the few 90-minute races we're doing this season, so it's going to be a brilliant long-form tussle, lots of strategy, and it should be a good race. Looking forward to it.
I agree. It's one of those tracks that does offer up a little bit of strategy variety, and you touched on it as well. There's a couple of drivers that are missing tonight. There's been a bit of storm activity in the southeastern part of Australia. There's at least two drivers affected by that. Nathan Higginson in his BMW is missing for this one. He's down the Traralgon area. He's unfortunately got internet dramas as a result of the weather. Paul Lewis Wedding, who's actually a stone's throw from me, he's only about 20 minutes sort of around the Dandenong area. He's got no power at all, and it's been that way since 4 AM Friday morning. I'm one of the lucky ones sort of out this area with the underground power and the fibre to the internet, or fibre to the premise internet, so I'm sort of lucky. I would have actually offered him a spot here, but unfortunately my children are having to isolate with the whole COVID-19 drama at the moment, so unfortunately I can't squeeze him in here to actually get things going. I was very tempted to sort of go down to his place with the trailer on the back of the car and load the sim rig up and bring it here and put it in the garage for him, because he was very keen to race. It's one of his favourite tracks, and he's really, I think, I wouldn't say unhappy, but just upset that he's missing this one, and I can understand why. He's had some good results here in the past, not just in GT3, but they've had Porsche Cup here in the past as well, and a couple of other ASR sanctioned events have graced this Temple of Speed as well, and I can understand why he would be upset missing this one.
Yeah, hopefully he's able to tune in and have a watch. It hasn't run out of phone battery yet, given the maybe go out into his car and charge his phone off that while watching.
Yeah, I think a few people have actually done that in the last couple of, or last 24 to 36 hours. They've had to go and do a couple of laps around their local area just to put some phone charge in the battery, or if you've got one of those little sort of power packs that you can use to plug into the phone just to support the battery a little bit more, then that's what they've been doing. But it's one of those things that you don't expect to have a power outage, and people just sort of go to bed, put their phone on the side of the bedside table, and then they've got no power. They wake up, they look at the phone, and it just says 10% left, and then you start to freak out. I think I've been there and done that as well, but learnt my lesson from it. I'm sure a few other people will as well.
Yeah, certainly, and hopefully for next round we'll be able to have everyone back in a full strength field for our finale, which I believe no matter what happens here, if I'm just going to segue us into the points, I believe no matter what happens here, the championship can still go. No, it can be won here by Bolger, but not Greg Tara. Is that if I'm remembering rightly?
Yeah, correct. We've got the points on the screen here now with 8 of the 10 rounds completed. And the margin at the top being, you can see there's 18 points from Steve Bolger to Greg Turra. So even if Bolger wins this race and Greg Turra finishes second, or even a couple of lesser spots behind, the fight will still continue to the final round at Bahrain. It's scheduled for November the 20th, so it's about 3 weeks from now. It may be pushed forward slightly. It may be pushed back a little bit as well, but we're yet to have that discussion. So unless there's a DNF for Greg Turra in this race, the championship fight is very much alive heading into Bahrain, and it's a 50-point payday for the winner tonight as well. So very, very important, I think, from Greg Turra's point of view here, Bagsy. Given that the championship fight is pretty much going to be between the top two on the list there. Termo's got to have a good solid couple of nights to hang on to third here. But with the top two being the only two that can really win it from here with the amount of points remaining, Greg Tara's got to have a good night, and he's probably got to win this race. If not, finish ahead of Steve Bolger.
100%. And something to consider, it's 75 points for the win for this race. I believe. 50, sorry.
50 for the
sorry,
win.
I'm thinking of a different point system. It's
Yes.
50 for the win of this race, which means if for whatever reason there is a Bolger and Greg Tara at the front and have an incident that takes them both out, and Termo is there to pick up the pieces and win the race, suddenly he's tied with Greg Tara on points, and it is a three-way battle going into the final round. As it stands, the most likely scenario is Termo will be out of the running by the end of this race, but he can secure his third place here, depending on Noah Tara's positioning at the end. However, it's the most likely scenario is he'll be out of contention in this round, but you never know what can happen. The series is all about consistency. That's the thing we've said the whole time, and it will certainly make the finale in Bahrain very interesting.
Yeah, it certainly will. Going into a sprint format at Bahrain, the dual night sprint format like we had in the sprint series last year, we're looking very much forward to that. So to clarify, it's a 50-point payday for the win in tonight's 90-minute race, and then each of the sprint rounds still to come at Bahrain in a couple of weeks from now. 2 races there. It's a 25-point payday for each race. So there's a maximum of 100 points still on the table for any one driver should you be able to win all 3. And the gaps are a little bit different too. So for example, from tonight, the winner gets 50 points. The next man in second place would get 45 points. And then you look at the sprint series format, the winner gets 25 points, and then the man in second place gets 22. So there's a little bit of a difference in the points gaps, but when you sort of average it out over the course of the night, if the same driver's finished in sort of first and second in each of those couple of races, then it's sort of similar gaps. There's only like a 1-point difference between, winning 3 races, the one driver winning the next 3 races, and then the same driver finishing in second place. It's only a 1-point difference sort of overall in terms of how the points are structured. So it's not too bad a thing.
And the real kicker is that Steve Bolger can just afford to follow Greg Tara home in second for every race for the rest of the series, and he will win and he'll be crowned champion. He doesn't have to take risks. So but he might not be happy with that. He might want to go for it and win with glory and first places all the way to the end.
Yeah, well, you're right there. I think every driver will want to win it, so that's no questions about that. But for Bolger, it's not exactly a zero risk strategy here. Like as you said, he can afford to follow Greg Turra all the way home and basically be one position behind him at every step and still be fine. But you still got to negotiate all the traffic and all the trials and tribulations of not only a 90-minute race, but also the sprint race as well.
Yeah, and he has to, if he can get out ahead or at least in the top two, he'll be happy. I think he can actually do it with third places as well. So we might see him deciding to let people by or not fighting people because he can afford to just keep his rhythm, keep a very smooth, easy pace that is comfortable for him rather than having to push himself. So that might be the way to go, but these guys aren't really wired that way.
No, they're certainly not wired that way. We're just waiting for qualifying to get underway. We're actually about to go into qualifying. 15-minute qualifying session is just a few seconds away from getting underway at, well, the place we call it ASR's, basically anything can happen track, but I think a few drivers would probably prefer to call it by its, I guess it's the affectionate name that it's otherwise known as, which is the fabled Temple of Speed, is what we go with in the real world as we head into qualifying. A couple of changes for this one as well, Bags. There's a few drivers have jumped into some different cars. Here's one of them on screen, Brendan Ross. He's decided to pick up Luke Rosella's Porsche. Now, Rossi hasn't had a permanent car pretty much at all during the season. He's just sort of jumped into whatever's been available. And Rosella missing this one. He's opted to pick up the Porsche. He's driven a Porsche a few times, the Craft Bamboo Porsche, which I believe is in the hands of another driver tonight. I think it's actually in one of the hands of one of our new entrants who's just exited the pits at the back of the screen there. We'll run through those new entrants in the next couple of minutes, I think, as Rossi just decides, you know what, I can't be bothered with turn number 1 and 2. I'll just go straight on. Thank you very much.
No, it's not a fast lap. Why bother with the chicane? It's just precious tyre life.
Precious a little bit of tyre life. I wouldn't say a huge amount of tyre life, but he's just sort of pressed on with that one there. There's a few other drivers that usually the regulars are out there as well. The Lamborghini, the sole Lamborghini, I think we should say, in the hands of Taipei. Remember, Lamborghini was the winning manufacturer here little over a year and a little under a year and a half ago. 16th of June last year was the last time we circulated this venue for 90 minutes. Steve Bolger taking Lamborghini to line honours. So Taipei's got a little bit of something to live up to here, a bit of manufacturer's pride, I think, to uphold the Italian mark at the Italian circuit.
Yeah, I think as Bolger has gone from one Italian marquee to another in his Ferrari, so I think Bolger taking it to a Ferrari Italian victory would probably be the only thing more Italian in cars than Lamborghini is Ferrari.
No, you're spot on there.
And I guess being on fire on the side of the road.
Oh, that's true. I mean, they always talk about it. Was it Top Gear that went with the whole premise of the Ferrari 458? You know, burning at the side of the road or whatever it was all the time. There was a meme or something I think they did, but I think this is a 488 that Bolger's got his hands. So
he's safe then. I can say it's the same thing with Ducatis as well. It seems to be a theme for Italian cars. They're very nice looking, but terribly unreliable.
First flying laps are underway. And already there's a little bit of slipstreaming and shenanigans on the front straight here. Taipei keeping a little bit of a toe from a Turbo GTR, and Turbo had a bit of a moment in the chicane there as well. What happened to him? He actually sort of really made a meal of that one going into turn 1. I'm going to have a look and see if I can bring that one up on a replay somewhere if I can find it. Here we go. And already, first mistake very, very early in this session. And did Turbo just miss the brakes?
He might have got up on the curb and...
Oh, the rear end got away.
Oh, yeah, lost the rear.
Lost the rear end got away from him on that one. So that's not a bad, it's not a huge loss in terms of, you know, having a major accident or that. There's a severely compromises his lap. Also probably puts a bit of extra strain and a bit of extra wear on those Pirelli tyres.
Someone else who I thought was going to have a compromised lap because the start of his lap, he was side by side with another car, was Steve Bolger, but he set the fastest first sector anyway, although it has been eclipsed by Greg Turra by 6. Type N I think has gone off as well, and the final chicane, so that's his lap done. But Brendan Ross is still circulating about, and it's actually going quite well.
Yeah, he's actually, I think Type N had went off in a Ascari actually, so
he did.
That's where he's been problem. Coming back to the Steve Bolger issue, here he is. He's actually behind Steve Warwick here, so I think if he set a pretty decent couple of sectors, and he's actually getting a nice hole punched in the air by Steve Warwick's Bentley at the moment. Big long straights here, slipstreaming. It's going to be a big talking point all night long, and Brendan Ross sets the first proper time on the board, and times are all starting to come in thick and fast here. Ball now goes to the top. Steve Warwick is going to come up to the line here. He goes to the top, and then toes Bolger in, and he goes to the top. So a full second Steve Bolger now at the top, but I had my eyes on, I think it was Greg Turra a bit further down the orders, waiting to see what he's come up with. He's been gazumped a little bit here as well.
I think there's a bit of team play going on between Turras too.
Oh, there is. Here we go. They've gone 1 and 2. They've gone 1 and 2.
But second, because he's been giving the toe to Noah Turra, so I wonder if that's going to be reciprocated next time around.
We'll soon find out. Are they going to go for another hot lap, or are they going to keep going? So Greg Turra, position number 2. Towed son Noah around position 1. So here's the deal, right? Greg Turra, purple sector 1. Noah Turra, purple sector 3. They were pretty well matched in sector 2. Greg Turra's third sector was 3/10 slower because he was punching the hole in the air for the other car behind. So that's where a lot of that one came from. And the hard part too was that second sector ends at Ascari, or the entrance to Ascari, and then you've got that big long drag all the way to the Parabolica, and then around Parabolica halfway up the front straight. So sector 3 is the real difficult one because you really need that hole in the air being punched for you.
Yeah, and it looks like Noah made a mistake in the chicane, so he has dropped back a bit from Greg Turra, so this lap isn't going to do much for him. And through the first sector, Greg was down on his original time. See as he comes up to Ascari now how he's going, and he is only a 10th down, so there's a chance for him to improve, especially because there is, I believe, a Porsche of, I just caught a glimpse of blue, so I'm not sure if that is...
no, it's actually
it's not Porsche.
Heather Turra's. No, that's one of the liveries. That's actually, it's on my broadcast. It's actually the WM Waste Mercedes-Benz is one of the very few changes. One of the new entrants coming in for this round. It was one of the guest car liveries actually. It's actually one of the driving the former ERT Bravo car belonging to Thomas Patrick, who didn't turn any laps, to Gabriel Prado. He actually is giving a little bit of a draft assistance to Greg Turra, but not a huge amount, and Turra's put the pin.
I believe Noah's probably about to as well, and then, or maybe not, he seems to be continuing on. I was thinking he might go back and give his dad a tow, but maybe not.
No, he's continued on for the moment here. Last man to set a time though, Tim Redmond, is coming down to Parabolica now, and the only other person that I'm really looking at the moment with any vested interest is Termo. He actually hasn't set a representative time at all, because remember he had that issue at the opening chicane. And I've just seen him skate across the De La Rocha chicane at turns 4 and 5 as well, so he's not having a really good lap this time out either, as Redmond goes P4.
That's a nice lap there from Redmond, repping the GTR today.
Not much behind, yeah, he's changed cars. Not that far behind Steve Bolger actually as well. There's a couple of hundredths in that, not very much in it at all. And then that leaves this man without a true representative lap time. And look, he's got traffic at the moment as well. So how does this bode well for him? Second sector split at 137. And what was his first sector? It was 35.2, so he was about 8/10 of a second off the pace in sector 1. And his second sector hasn't actually registered, so that means he's been given a track cut for that lap from his little indiscretion at turn 4 and 5. And he's fast running out of time here to go again, so I don't know whether he's going to try for another flying lap. Maybe he might be better off coming in, putting a fresh set of boots on car 51 and then having another go.
Yeah, I don't think he's taken too much out of the tyres, so I think in this scenario, he's fine to continue on. Probably getting a bit of a hole punched in the air as well from the car ahead. I've noticed Noatara appears to have gone back into the pits. Oh, Bolger just had a spin first.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's right.
Noatara is still in the pits, and Greg Tara is coming down to Parabolica now. So I'm wondering if Noah's going to pop out now and help with the tow, or if he has decided, I've got mine. Good luck, Dad.
Yeah, I think it's the latter, because he's not exited the lane at all.
Which is just very not nice. You know, your teammate does a favour for you, and then just leave them hanging out to dry, especially when Greg is the one in the title battle, not Noah. But it's their prerogative, I guess.
Here we go, and right, so Noah Tara's still in the pit lane, and Greg Tara commences his first, or his next flying lap in the run. Actually tucked in here behind Steve Bolger, so Bolger is on an out lap, I think, at the moment.
He made a mistake in the first one.
Yeah, there he goes. So he lets Greg Tara through, slides it through Dylan Rogers' chicane.
Only 200ths down. As Brendan Ross had a bit of a trip across Del Roger as well.
Yeah, a few people are making that fatal mistake of just leaving their braking a little bit too late for turn 4. It's a bit tricky. There's a 100-metre board. It's sort of right on where the shadows of the bridge are that goes over that part of the circuit. You need to be braking a little bit earlier than that. There's a Porsche, I think, of Naoki Yamamoto and I think Zach Brown in the Audi were having a little bit of a side-by-side moment on the approach to Ascari. Tara not that far away, it's sort of lockstep there or thereabouts, and now he's going to get a nice little bit of assistance here from the 991 Craft Bamboo Porsche.
Question is he going to go for another lap, or is he going to pull out of it straight away and stop Bolger from getting an advantage?
Well, I'm not sure here, because Bolger said he's on an out lap, or he's on a mistake lap, but this will give him a bit of assistance down the front straight. And Yamamoto, what's he going to be doing here? He's going for another lap, so he's gearing up for the lap. And Tara improves, but there's not much room at the top there. There's 53 thousandths of a second, and he lets these leaders go, or these top 2 cars go, or 3 cars go sailing on by. Good job giving the assistance, or the draft assistance, and then sort of getting out of the way. Turmo and all of that's found some time. He's gone up to 5th. And
Redmond's just found some time. Redmond's gone 2nd.
Redmond has moved up the order, and that's not that's a little bit of a surprise. He's found some time in his GTR. He splits the 2 Tara machines at the top. And there's a little bit of a moment off of the first chicane, so that wasn't in the script.
Yeah, that's very surprising. Greg Tara is up. Steve Bolger is slightly down on the time, but Bolger's going to be benefiting from, he was losing time through the Curva Grande in terms of less grip in his car, and he will be in the sector too, but as he comes down these long straights here in the last part of the lap, it's going to be interesting to see. He'll probably be coming up to trying to be side by side with Greg at the line here, but he's really closing in. We'll see how Greg goes through the sector split. He's down, and Bolger is only 9 thousandths down.
There's nothing in this at the moment, and Tara is unknowingly, or sorry, I wouldn't say unknowingly, knowingly giving
He knows he's there, but he can't stop.
He can't shake him. This is the problem. He cannot shake the Ferrari at the moment.
That being said, Greg could tactically bugger up this corner and stop Bolger from getting higher, and because he'll pretty much guarantee Bolger behind him, but he wants the pole position. They both do. We'll see who gets as they come up to the line.
Tara improves to 2nd, gets demoted immediately as Bolger goes to the top.
Look at that. Bolger with the massive slipstream.
And with 2.5 minutes to go as well, this is important. Greg Tara has got to go again. Straight out of the pits and straight gone again. He'll have to be on it on this lap. He cannot afford to dawdle. He's got to be on it.
I don't know if he can beat that lap, because I think he just did the best lap he can do without getting a tow. That was Bolger. What put Bolger over the line there was the fact that he got a tow the whole way around in the crucial parts of the lap. What Greg should have just as I was saying, made a tactical error into Parabolica, a la Schumacher at Rascasse or Nico Rosberg, also in Monaco, if you believe that one, to secure the higher position for himself. He's given such a huge advantage to Bolger that's put him ahead of not just himself but also Noah, who could have been used as a bit of a pick in that battle.
That's right. Now, importantly, with the clock where it's at right now, as watching Gabriel Prado on screen, this is the car you were referring to as the blue car before, Bags. It's a little bit of a different livery on it, the WM Waste 8A car. One of the new entrants
I think I
into
missed
the
that
series.
update.
Yeah, it's only a broadcast update only on my side, don't stress.
Ah.
It's all good. If you're not on track at the moment, you're not getting another lap, so that means Noah Tara, Zach Brown in positions 2 and 11, and Glenn Miles and Naoki Yamamoto. I am going to get that right tonight as Prado moves up the order. That's a good job to move up another spot, and he'll get another lap. Those 5 or 4 cars, and now you throw Cameron Parrott into that one. If you're not on the track, you're not getting another lap as Prado bins that one at turn 1. And we turn our attention back to Greg Turra to see what he's up to as he comes around Parabolica for the final time this session. And Bolger going again as well. And Tim Redmond is on his last one. So looking at the track map here, Bagsy, who's going to be the next one across the line that will be finishing their lap? And
the next one across the line of importance is going to be Tim Redmond, and he is, last I checked, was slightly up on the time of current first place man Steve Bolger. So
yeah, he's not
as we see, he's not now. He's
lost some time. Now the only person I was just looking at actually is Brendan Ross. He's trying to find every little bit of time he can here, and he's just going to get to the line and get one more lap, I think. So the clock winds down, and yeah, he's going to be the last one to start a final flying lap by about 8 seconds. So he's good.
Horace 2.5 tenths up through the first sector.
Yep. Tim Redmond, first man to see the checkered flag for this session, and he's bailing. Right, he's done.
Ah.
So he obviously knows he wasn't going to increase or impede his position. So he pulls into pit lane. Rody will be the next one to post a time. Now, how is his laps looking? He was personal best in Sector 1, was okay in Sector 2, and he dropped away in Sector 3. So no more laps for Rody. The next man I want to find is Termo.
Against Australia, he was half a tenth up on his PB so far, but it's not going to be enough to eclipse the Redmond Tara.
Improves by 3 tenths. Steve Bolger's the next man. Has he lowered the mark anymore? He does not. So he's done. What about Greg Turra? He's coming through. He's coming through Parabolica now. This is going to be
purple first sector, faster in the second sector.
This is going to be close. Is he going to have enough in the tank to snatch the pole away from Bolger? Yes, by a tenth. And without the draft assistance, that is a statement.
What a lap!
That is a big statement from the man who needs to win this race to really keep it going. And Brendan Ross has aborted the lap as well. So he was the last man. So a late surge to pole position for Greg Turra. And the only man to go under 1 minute 49 seconds.
Yeah, that was an absolutely brilliant lap. I take back what I said about him not being able to get it without the tow. Imagine what he would have done if he'd been towed around the lap the whole way.
Yeah, he got 11 tenths mistake free out of the car on that lap. Absolutely on it. 11 laps total it took him to get that pole position, but he was on laps overall. I mean, he said purple in Sector 1. He absolutely nailed that Sector 1. Sector 2 was pretty much on par with Bolger, and then he actually dropped 2 tenths in Sector 3, but he had 3 tenths in hand from Sector 1, so there's your difference in terms of the 1/10 of a second at the end of the day. So well done to Greg Turra, and that's a much-needed pole. A much-needed pole and a much-needed boost for him.
Yeah, it's definitely what he needed to start off this race. I mean, it is a long race ahead, but starting from pole, you've given yourself the best opportunity, the best positioning, easier to keep out of the presumable mess behind. And he'll be very happy with that lap, especially when he pulled out at the death under pretty intense pressure of having just the one shot.
Yeah, had one chance to do it and got it done. and he will start off the front row with Steve Bolger. While we have a few minutes up our sleeve, let's have a look at how the season's gone so far. We look at our track overview and our maps with thanks to Google Earth and Google Earth Studio. We started off in Melbourne and a pair of wins to Luke Rosella, with Brendan Ross is occupying the Porsche that he drove to victory on those two occasions tonight. Then off to Europe with Greg Tara getting his first ever victory at the Circuito do Estoril. First time we'd ever been to Estoril, and gave it a very, very nice welcome to the ASR track listings. Laguna Seca, second time we'd done GT3s at Laguna Seca. Wins were split. Greg Tara taking race 2, and Termo with a maiden GT3 victory for him in race number 1. We saw Damon Woods start to make his appearance felt at Brazil, the first of the 90-minute races, and he won that one by over a minute. He made it 2 from 2 when we went off to the Nürburgring in Germany, the GP layout, not the full layout. The full layout would still be there by now. So he made it 2 from 2. He failed to make it 3 from 3, with Greg Tara getting the first of the races in continental Italy, the first 90-minute or the 90-minute race for Imola. And then it was off to France for a pair of races. Damon Woods getting another win, Rosella getting another win. So the only two men to have 3 wins on, three men to have 3 wins on the season so far. And Steve Bowl just introduced himself back into the championship fight. His first win in over a year, ironically, in a little bit of ASR irony, coming at this track that we're at tonight, Monza. So his timing, Steve Bolger, could not be sweeter in terms of getting his first win in pretty much over, 17 months, Bagsy. And he got it here last year at the Temple of Speed, and he's our last out winner last time around. You know this track better than all of us, mate. Take us through it.
Yeah, it's almost 6 kilometers of blast through the park in northern Milan in Monza. It is a beautiful area and a beautiful place to go watch Formula One if you ever get the chance. The old banking that's behind us and off to the right-hand side that used to be the main part of the track, but it is still a ridiculously fast track. All chicanes, hardly anything in the way of significant braking zones or corners. You're braking really twice, going down to the first and second chicanes. The Lesmos are more of a lift, honestly, although in these cars there's a little bit of braking. We aren't going to see anywhere near our lap records from 2019 and 2020, but it's still going to be a very fast 90-minute race. You see, we're probably going to be getting about 50 laps. So it's going to be a long race. There's lots of time to think about what you're going to do at the next corner, but you have to do it for 90 minutes. So we're going to see the strategy is going to come into play here. We're going to see how everyone manages to deal with Monza. We've seen it throw up so much stuff already, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the drivers handle it this time. I think we're up to 16 people now, so we've ended up with a very healthy grid, and this could be a championship decider in this 90-minute race, but we could be going to Bahrain. So let's get going here at Monza.
Absolutely, let's get it going indeed. The thing I look at this, when I look at this circuit, Bagsy, I know it's called the Temple of Speed for reasons. The fastest speeds on the calendar by far. There's only 11 corners. There is a lot of straights, and the one word that comes to my mind when I look at a circuit like this is what they call respite. So the drivers get a little bit of respite going up and down these straights, but it's anything but respite. Pretty much the respite that they get is their muscular respite, because they're not constantly turning the car. The car's going in a straight line, but mentally they don't get any respite at all. They're then got to be thinking about, where's my braking point, because it's such a high-speed approach to a lot of these corners. Am I towing somebody along that's going to have a go at me down at the next chicane or at the next corner that I need to be aware of? So it's not like some of the circuits we visited over the course of the year already, where there's always a corner coming at you and it's not that far away. You don't have a huge amount of time to give your muscles a chance to relax. But I think at a 90-minute race, a circuit like this, mentally, it's a mentally taxing race.
It certainly is, and any endurance racing is. You can just ask our friend Michael Zalavari about GT3 racing, and he'll give you an hour-long speech about how it's mentally tough. But the thing here is that the track will lure you into a false sense of security. One of the biggest problems these drivers have, especially in these races that have pit stops in the longer form races, is trying to find the time to manipulate the menu so that you're adjusting your fuel numbers, your fuel number in your tires, and trying to make sure you're putting the right amount of fuel in and deciding all your strategy things. It's very hard to do while you're also racing and doing all that stuff. Here, you've got all these long straights where you can be like, oh yeah, I can enter my, I've got lots of time to do all this. I'll change my fuel on the next straight and things like that. I'll, think about my strategy here. But then suddenly you're at a corner that's, you need to slam on the brakes and you've missed your braking marker by not even a tenth of a second, but suddenly you're going deep into that corner, and if there might be another car there, you're having an incident just because you've thought you've had time, but you've been lulled into a false sense of security.
Yeah, you're spot on there. The false sense of security is a big thing with regards to paying attention. I think that whole mental exercise of you've got to not only balance the mental exercise of watching where everything's going, but even during all these races, there's been some sort of strategy element you've got to think about, whether it's the sprint races and there's been a splash and dash, you've got to then work out where to time it, manipulating the menu, as you were saying, making sure that you've got the right fuel on board, you don't need to change tyres, that sort of thing. And then with the longer races, being able to plan ahead and then working out what part of the circuit you can actually spend the time to manipulate the menu, to set your pit stops and that. I mean, in a lot of cases, you're at some of these circuits where you can only do a little bit at a time. Like you might only have like 3 or 4 seconds to be able to, inch the fuel number forward a few seconds, and then you've got to wait 20 seconds or so before you have enough time to do it again. A lot of these drivers, I'd imagine, don't have the same sort of buttons on the steering wheel, or enough buttons on the steering wheel rather, to be able to do all of that. So they've actually got to get it done via a keyboard or some other sort of method, and it becomes all of a sudden you could have your hands full.
Yeah, it is definitely a very delicate dance that you're having to do to manage all these things, and it's one of the things that it's hard for us to bring across in the broadcast because we can't see what these guys are doing in their rigs and stuff and how they're set up, but it's one of the things that we try and highlight by telling everyone about the fact they're doing their own strategies here. No one has as far as we know, no one has a strategist making the calls for them, working out, keeping an eye on where the other drivers are and things like that. There's just not the ability to do that unless I think some of them are also watching the broadcast and maybe listening into our suggestions or things that we're saying should be done. And if they are, then take no responsibility for any race losses that occur as a result of that, because our advice has been shown to be sometimes off the mark.
Yeah, a little from column A and a little from column B, I think I would like to put it. There have been some times where we've sort of made that call and said, you know what, this driver needs to make this call because it's the right call to make, and then they don't make it. We've been proven right, and sometimes we've been proven the other way around. So we're getting ready to go for 90 minutes. It's the grid is starting to form up here, just waiting on one or two drivers to get themselves in order. Good to see a couple of guys along in the live chat. Hans and Brian Walsh are in there as well, and Pete Savage, who had a pretty good run here at one point. I think he actually said he's called it absolutely perfectly. Slipstream Fest is basically what it was the last time we were here. And the last time we were here, it was a case of nobody wanted to lead the race for more than 2 laps. It was the order of the day. I'm wondering if we're going to see that again this week, Bagsy, because of the fuel numbers that some of these gentlemen are going to have to hit.
Yeah, we can only hope. We're expecting the cars like the BMW and the GTRs to be struggling more with fuel. And so, yeah, it'll be potentially, but then again, we might see them just going all out and trying to push hard and fast and hoping for safety cars, because there is still that option.
Well, here we go. Let's have a look through this order. I might take it through for a change for the night. We usually defer it to Bagsy or to Flood, but for a change for Monza, let's have a look. So Greg Turra, 18 points in arrears in the title race, and has got a fair bit of work to do and probably needs to win this race to keep it well and truly alive. He's going to have a bit of a hard challenge because the man he's chasing in the championship, Steve Bolger, is alongside him in the Gravel Rash Racing Ferrari. Then behind him, Noah Turra. Can Noah play a bit of a wingman tonight for Greg Turra and help him make a bit of headway in his challenge for the GT3 World Championship tonight? It's certainly in the right spot, so he's got to be able to help fly that flag for the BMWs and GW Racing. Tim Redmond, bit of a surprise packet, has taken the GTR up to position 4 on the grid. So for the top 3 in the title race, that wasn't in the script for them. Termo is second of the GTRs in car 51, up in 5th place, and he shares a row with Steve Warwick. That's a really good showing from Steve Warwick. So a lot of the front engine cars coming to the fore, as we kind of expected. Peter Thrower, who's in the McLaren for this one, the Wildcat and Artmore McLaren, usually piloted by Mike Coulston. Shares a row with Brendan Ross, who's got Luke Rosella's Porsche 991 for the night. Cameron Parrott, who's a new entrant to the series, has got the first of the Audis, the International Motorsport Audi, in 9th. And Taipan, who's been one of the regulars in the wildcard Lamborghini, in position 10. Then comes Zach Brown, the second of the Audis, the Piston Broke Racing, normally run by Scott Murrell. Gabriel Prado on debut as well in position 12 in what was the Evolution Racing Team Bravo Mercedes-Benz, now sporting WM waste colours of green, gold and white. Brody, the second of the Mercedes cars, in 13th. You've got Glenn Miles, who's already going across the gravel trap on the exit of Ascari. Naoki Yamamoto in the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche, and then Ben Hall rounding out our 16-car field in the second of the Team GTR Nissans.
It is a very strong field, and it is going to be an absolute 90-minute shootout, I hope, between these two at the front. See Greg Turra on the pit limiter there.
Yeah, they're already on the... starting to get themselves ready here to go, I think, aren't they? They're playing a few games.
They've lined themselves up very nice. Greg Turra has been given a stop-go penalty, but that will be rescinded. Yes. So don't worry about that. Everyone.
That will be sorted. And away we go. So 90 minutes is
early.
underway.
Greg Turra's gone early. He's got a massive jump on Bolger. Bolger's being absolutely swamped at the moment. He's got Redmond on the outside, Noah Turra on the inside, but Greg Turra's just gone. He's light years ahead. Bolger goes to the outside. He's going to have Redmond on the inside. Redmond's going to try and make a move on Noah Turra, but thinks better of it. Noah Turra stays ahead of Redmond, stays ahead of Bolger. Bolger dropping down 2 positions at the start. And Greg Turra just absolutely gone. Although Noah Turra has already caught up him very quickly, but a very slow start for Steve Bolger. I'm wondering if he's just commenced fuel saving immediately, because he's got Turmo all over the back of him as well. Meanwhile, back at the front, Noah Turra is looking at, there goes Turmo down the inside. Oh, he's gone on Redmond as well. He's way too deep.
There's contact, so that's a mistake, and we've seen Turmo make a mistake in qualifying there, I think about halfway through the session, so that has come unstuck for car 51 very quickly. Now he's got Steve Warwick all over the back of him in Blackshaw's Bentley. But I think you're right. I think that Steve Bolger may have gone into a fuel conservation mode immediately from the get-go, because it's one of the turbo mid-engine cars, the Ferrari along with McLaren. So it's got some good acceleration, but it does have a little bit of a fuel problem. Sort of in the same boat as the front-engine cars. It does need a little bit of fuel saving to make it home. For Turmo, that was very lucky.
Noah Turra is immediately hooked up to the back of Greg Turra, and we saw Greg Turra had that massive bump out at the front, that massive lead out at the front, but I'm wondering if he's intentionally backed off a little bit so he and Noah Turra can maybe exchange the lead and position a few times. They might be going for a strategic sort of thing in terms of trying to save fuel there by doing that, because I don't think that Greg was that slow after such a good start.
Yeah, spot on. So lap 1 in the books for Greg Turra. Penalty has been taken care of. It was just one of those little timing glitch penalties. So the 2 Turras in the GTR, so in the BMWs, are away. Here goes Steve Warwick down the inside of Turmo, and he should have the high ground here for turn 1. And he's going to hold Turmo high and wide. He's going to leave a bit of space. Leaves a bit of space. They get through. Slides up in front of the GTR. Gets the pass done. Very, very nice job for Steve Warwick. Round Curva Grande. And onwards to the next chicane now. Redmond has caught up to the back of the Turras here as well, Bagsy, and is starting to go with them. Now Bolger's sort of trailing by about a second, 1.2 seconds. So he's sort of sitting back there at the moment. What was his lap time? The standing lap time for Bolger was about 2 seconds slower than the race leaders.
Yeah, I think you can put most of that down to the initial start as well, but I do think he's almost certainly straight into conservation mode. Redmond is, yeah, absolutely going for it into this train here. So Bolger, I think he's just going with the strategy of, if he keeps his nose clean, he's going to be fine. He's going to win this championship because he doesn't need to take risks. He can watch these three battle it out and take risks all he wants and take fuel out of each other. He can just sit back and enjoy the show. He'll have the best seat in the house. It's Turmo wide in the background.
Turmo very wide. That's actually left him a little bit exposed to Brendan Ross here as well, as Rossi tries to tuck into the slipstream of the GTR. It's got a big rear wing and it's a very, very tall car, that GTR. It does punch a massive hole in the air, very similarly to what the hole being punched in the air by Steve Warwick's Bentley at the moment as well. And the train will continue up the front straight here. Turmo's got a really good run here. And Redmond's got a really good run as well at the front. Down the middle, trying to split them. Is there room? And there's contact. There's a bit of push and shove.
In first.
Yeah, and Greg Turra is the one that's lost out with that one as well, in all the little push and shove that was going on. Time for a quick look at that one on the replay, actually, from the Redmond point of view, I think. Let's go on with Redmond and see what happened.
It looks like the cars have got hooked up on each other, their geometry a little bit. And that's what caused them to have that little bit of contact there. Just that little move across there, and they just
just a little sort of Turra just sort of trying to move over a little bit, maybe just to tighten up for the corner a bit, but maybe didn't quite realise how close Redmond actually was there. So they were lucky to get away with that.
The long and the short of it is that Steve Bolger, who's not had to do anything to close the gap up again because they've been fighting.
Absolutely.
He's just kept his pace.
And you see Greg Turra's lost a little bit of pace here as well. I was wondering whether or not I'm not even sure if the draft was actually that powerful. I actually thought maybe they were trying to execute a bit of a swap there. So maybe Noah Turra and Greg Turra were trying to execute some sort of a swap from a fuel mileage and point of view. So they'd sort of try and get to a certain number. And it didn't quite come off the way that they wanted it. There's also this draft training, you can see it behind them as well. Turmo following Steve Warwick and then dragging Brendan Ross along for the ride as well. Here is that battle again. We're watching this on the last lap as well now. But Warwick managed to hold his own. Turmo's giving Rubbin as well.
Rubbin's racing here at the moment and they're absolutely going for it. Ahead, Bolger's looking to make the move on Greg Turra. We'll have a look at that one in a second, but Warwick is under immense pressure. Turmo's pushing him all the way down, but he's not pulling out to into the move.
No.
As we see, Bolger has made it past Greg Turra through the first chicane.
It's very easy at the end of the day too. And actually, in fact, Greg Turra has now gone back ahead, so that's a bit of a switch there as well. It wasn't so easy. So Greg's fighting here. Oh, I'm wondering if Bolger's... Oh, no, Bolger's around! He's had a spin! I'm wondering if he had an issue with the game there, because that's a... Oh, so close as well, but
he's such bad... Oh, no! Oh.
He had no choice there. He had to do something to try and get out of the way. He was in a precarious position. I'm wondering if he had a moment with the game there for some weird reason, because it looked very, very strange. So we go back to this a little bit here. I'm going to pick this up right here on the broadcast. So here he is ahead, and the next minute, behind. So I think he's probably had some sort of a little game moment that's put him behind. And then I saw it on the broadcast here, just through the corner here. The car started to slide. There it goes, and then it reset again. And I think he's maybe had something has taken control of his PC or his game, and that's had a massive impact. Whoosh, whoosh, there goes 3 cars. Then didn't realise Parrott was there. Parrott takes the grass. Everybody get away with it.
Well done for Parrott as well. Like, damn, the dude coming out of Curve Grande, going down to that braking zone. I'm pretty sure he actually made the corner fine still as well. He's still ahead of Taipan and hasn't lost much time to Brendan Ross and Turmo ahead. So well done well done to Parrott there. In fact, I think he still set his fastest first sector. So
yeah, he did. Now, the important thing is that wasn't big enough to trigger a safety car either, so he got going fairly quickly. Had he been there for another couple of seconds, I think maybe they would have called safety car. The real question is how much damage is on this Ferrari. I think he's just had another very quick freeze moment there as well, so something's not right with Steve Bolger, not just the car, but probably with the game as well. Yeah, he's having all sorts of dramas here, and that's now put him behind Rhodey and in front of Peter Thrower. That would have been an absolute heart attack moment for Peter Thrower, and I think Bolger's got a very major issue to deal with at the moment.
Now this is usually, when we see this specific type, it's usually an internet problem, isn't it? Not a actual game problem.
Well, it's two issues. It's happening again. So I'm actually just going to have a quick look server side and actually just see if there's any sort of thing major going on here for Steve Bolger.
It's just gone off again into the wall.
It's actually, yeah, it's not a ping problem. I think he's having some sort of game issues. The ping looks fine from a server point of view from where I'm sitting. It's only at low numbers. He's got a major issue at the moment. We probably shouldn't be watching much more of it. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Just keep an eye on what's going on. But this is really championship defining for Steve Bolger. He's got some major dramas that he needs to sort out and fast.
Yeah, it would be horrible for the championship to potentially be decided this way, but he's got it all to do now. It seems like things are, nope, they're not back in order. I'm keeping an eye on him as we're seeing the battle for 6th now. The battle for 4th. He's still heating up, going down to Parabolica, but just having what Bolger really wants to do is just keep pushing forwards. Even if he's having these issues, he can still score points. As Tim Redmond is in 1st now, which I don't think we saw happen either, because it was Noah Tara last time I checked.
No, well,
so Tim Redmond's down 1st.
Yeah, while we were watching what was going on with Steve Bolger, Redmond has gone to the lead of this race, so he's leading out for Noah Tara here. Greg Tara is the big surprise. I think he's now gone into a massive fuel conservation mode at the moment. His lap time last time around was a 51.4. It was the slowest lap out of I'm just looking here, out of the top 6 cars. He was the slowest out of the top 6. Redmond on a 49.5 is just blazing along at the moment and not really got to worry about fuel. And then behind him, Noah Tara is doing his best to try and stay with him.
Yeah, we'll see. No, there you go. It's back. You can see Bolger is now in 2nd last. He has dropped back behind Gabriel Prado as well, and I haven't seen it happen. His issues happened for a little bit, but yeah, he's almost back with Glenn Miles at this point, and he's getting close to being more. He's almost half a lap down now, and we're only 10 minutes into the race. So all to do for Steve Bolger. Hopefully, whatever issue he had, maybe it was a Windows update or something, or a driver update of some kind, seems to have rectified itself, and hopefully not too much damage on his car either, and he can start pushing back through the field.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on his lap times just to see how things are going for him throughout the course of the next 5 or so minutes, because it's a critical moment for him. He's behind a couple of the debutants at the moment in the series. Naoki Yamamoto is one of them. He's just found a little bit of grass there on the run to Ascari. So a few new drivers coming into the series. This man, I believe, is actually from Japan. Gabriel Prado behind him. I'm not sure his location in Camp Paris is an Aussie. Formerly out of the ASC Supercars Championship. He's coming along to do some GT3 running. And it's good to see that these guys on screen, they've actually come to us. I think there's been seeing the live streams being popping up over on AMS Unofficial, which is where we put up a few of the links. So good to see that a few of our international friends have decided to come along and have a bit of a dip at what some of Australia's finest AMS races have to deal with. And there might actually be a pass on here. We might actually get to see the Mercedes, the front engine Mercedes, get the job done on the rear engine Porsche. They're fighting into turn 1 here, and not quite, but that's a good fair fight between those guys. Over and under, looking at the switchback, so they've got all the right dance moves, but they've pretty much stayed exactly where they were. And Bolger's going to probably getting a little draft. Yeah, getting a little bit of a draft distance here. Oh, Prado's
going for
try to go the long way at Curva Grande and set himself up for the inside at turn 4.
Oh,
and that's a sweet move. That's a very, very nice move.
He's defended. That's I think there was a bit of a touch there as well, but he's defended quite well. He's defended fairly, as Yamamoto is coming up with Bolger now, and Bolger's decided to just wait a little bit until he gets to a nice easy section. No, he's not. He's going to go straight through at Lesmo 1. Yamamoto heads a bit wide.
Yeah, and I think that's probably just a little bit of just making sure that you don't want to upset somebody else's race. I mean, you're not in that race, or Bolger's sort of not in the class of lap times relative to Yamamoto, probably Prado as well, but they probably want to resume that battle as quickly as they can. And Bolger's last lap was a 51.5, so it's a little bit more representative of what we expect of him.
Speaking of battles, looks like we might be about to go 3 wide in the first corner with Warwick, Turmo, and Ross, because they're, as I say that, they get back into line astern, and then they span out yet again. Everyone wants the slipstream. They're so close together. How are they all braking at the same time without crashing? It's incredible.
I have no idea.
Did they plan this beforehand? Because they're just absolutely, it's like they've attached their cars together.
Yeah, it's like, the Top Gear thing with the 3 Alfa Romeos, and there's a tow rope between the front and rear cars and one in the middle. That's what it would look like on the run down to turn 1 that time around. These two have not, or 3 rather, have not got out of order for about the last 3 or 4 laps. They've just been joined at the hip.
I think Warwick is wanting them to pass. He's not trying any defensive stuff. And Turmo is intentionally not passing from the looks of it, because the last 3 or 4 laps, pretty much every time, Turmo's just stuck there and pushed Warwick down towards the first corner and has not tried. I think he's just doing it, he's saving his fuel. He's not, gets a bit slidey behind Warwick. But Warwick has essentially clear track in front of him because Turmo refuses to pass him. He's just pushing him. He's actually pushing him up to Greg Turro. They've been closing the gap.
Yeah, so it's not just the drafting, it's actual proper bump drafting in a lot of cases at the moment. Like, I'm actually going to we'll probably ride on board with Turmo when we get up the front straight. Well, actually, probably not so much the front straight. Right now, look at that, right there. Have a look. He is gnawing on the way of that back, on that back bumper. He is not. There's nothing between it. Like, they are pressed hard against each other, coming out of Ascari halfway down the straight toward Parabolica. There is no let up from Turmo here. He wants to fuel save as much as he possibly can. He doesn't care how much of a hole he has to make Steve Warwick punch in the air. He's just not giving an inch now. He's just playing his cards. He's actually really showing his cards right now.
I'm on the bumper cam, and it is inside Warwick's car, basically. They're just so close. And it's... Oh, as Warwick misses the second part of the chicane, so he's actually got himself quite a nice gap there, which he'll probably have to pull back just a little bit. But that's absolutely not giving anything.
No, definitely not. Turmo finds a bit of grass there as well. So, yeah, Warwick has sort of gapped these guys a little bit. Hasn't sort of come back the other way. There was another couple of cats that were just behind them that were having a battle as well. So Ben Holt was behind Taipan a few seconds ago, and he managed to make a move on the front straight to get back ahead of the Lamborghini driver, and Cam Parrott was tucked in there as well. So they've just sort of drifted apart again in the last 30 seconds or so. But this was another trio that were pretty much making a good head of speed in a little Truly train. And they're probably going to do the same thing again here. Parrott lead Audi at the moment, 9th place. And the other Audi there is Zach Brown down 12th place at the moment. Only one retirement so far. Glenn Miles out on lap 6. We missed that. And just having a look at what the status screen has to tell us about that one. Looks like that was just a straight up DNF. So it doesn't look like there was an accident of any nature. It looks like that was just had enough or something gone wrong. That was out of this one.
I've been looking back at Bolger Tracker. He's got past Gabriel Prado now, and his next person in his sight is Zach Brown. Just ahead of Zach Brown, Rhodey and Peter Thrower have been having a pretty good back and forth for the last few laps. Really, the gap is sort of going back and forth. It's like they're attached with a spring. It just keeps pulling out, and snapping back and pulling out, and they've been tussling a fair bit. And it's going to be interesting to see, because at the moment it looks like they'll get back close together around about the same time Bolger rocks up with them.
Yeah, you're probably right there. They, in real world motorsport, they refer to that as the elastic gap. It's like a rubber band, basically. So, and the way they commonly look at that is when you have two cars that are, say, a second apart, you can visually see they're a second apart. They then turn up under braking to the corner. You can see the lead car brakes first, so the second car naturally looks like it's actually closing up on the car in front. And by the time they get to corner exit, they're basically back where they started. So that's what's happening at the moment between Peter Thrower and Rody. Although when Rody goes on the brakes and then gets off the corner, Thrower actually sort of makes a very small gain overall, and then the next lap it'll be the other way around. Rody will go a little bit deeper. He'll then make a little bit of ground on the exit, but then look at that. That's a huge gain for Thrower right there. Gained a huge amount of time at Lesmo too, and now looking for some overlap on the run down towards Ascari. Rody's got to leave him some room here, and now just slowly starts to inch across and just take the line away from Thrower on the defensive approach.
Straight line speed in that Mercedes is no match. The McLaren is no match for it. But then you see the advantage of the corners. It's incredible the difference it makes.
Yeah, and then a turbo mid-engine McLaren versus the front-engine Mercedes is a very big talking point too. It's the same with all the front-engine cars dominate the ASR GT3 World Championship this year. There was all the BMW's one as well.
Warwick's round. Sorry, the Turbo Warwick lost battle.
That came back. That came back together, and that's a turn two.
Yeah, the amount of times Turbo was attached to Warwick's bumper has finally bitten Warwick, because Turbo gave him a bit of a nudge around.
Let me go on the endurance chat replay here. Run into turn one, so we've seen Turbo had been getting on like Donkey Kong with Steve Warwick, and what's happened here is that thinking maybe Turbo might have a little case to answer there. I think that probably maybe one, you were right there, mate. I think maybe one too many times gnawing away on the back bumper.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that Warwick was losing the rear a little bit already, but Turbo being there and bumping is definitely it was definitely a cause, not a symptom.
Correct. Yeah, I think that'll probably have to be looked at post race. I think that's a bit of an unusual one. I think. Bit of a weird angle for us to take a look at that one as well. We can only call TV broadcast angles, but that's what we're looking at there.
Brody and Thrower have just exchanged positions twice, and Bolger's right there now too.
Yeah, so Bolger has dispatched of Zach Brown here, and now he's got a wall of cars because Thrower wants to get past Brody and Bolger wants to pair him.
There's a big old gap there that was looking oh so inviting.
Oh,
but,
Thrower too deep, gone!
Oh, he's
straight on at Ascari. He just missed the braking point completely. Rody left him the space on the outside to say, you want to beat me, you've got to go around the outside, and he tried, but he just left the braking way too late here. And now it's only a matter of time before Bolger gets into the top 10, and he wants that draft from Rody. He wants it up the front straight, and he wants to slingshot past it into turn one. So be prepared to see Gravel Rash Racing Ferrari get a big slipstream run here against Rody's Mercedes-Benz up to turn one. And he wants it. You can see him chasing him across the road.
And Rody's doing everything he can. And the speed of that Mercedes means that Bolger's actually struggling to catch up to him. So, Rody, we know that there is a decent skill gap between the two of them, as you can see from how Bolger handled the first chicane. As Rody is being very aggressive, he knows that Bolger can't afford to race him and have more mistakes and more errors that could cost him points. So he is racing him very hard. He's using the situation, the mental situation to his advantage, but Bolger dispatches him just better on the brakes, and
he made the corner there, and then he checked up and set the second part of the chicane as well. So that sort of meant Rody had to just wait a little bit here. I thought for a minute there he was going to try and fight him up to Lesmo 1, but thinks better of it. Don't get yourself involved in a championship battle. It's not your concern.
Zach Brown and Thrower going side by side through both Lesmos as well there.
Yeah. And Gabriel Prado's caught up to the back of them as well. So he's capitalised on all the shenanigans going on in the lower half of the field. and has caught up a fair bit there. And I think Yamamoto's had a bit of a drama somewhere along the line because he's had a shocking couple of laps. He's well off the back of Gabriel Prado now. Bolger into the top 10, and then the next man for him is Cameron Parrott, who's a good 16 seconds up the road.
Yeah, he lost a lot of time with those two instances in Curva Grande. Oh, sorry, I was looking at Turmo and Brendan Ross have had it coming together into the first corner.
Turmo's had to shortcut the chicane here as well, so he's going on. He's going to try and work out where to rejoin here. Does he rejoin ahead of Ross? He does. So what happened there?
I think that's Ross got into the back of him under braking. So the thing is, Turbo still hadn't given the position back to Warwick, so I guess he didn't feel the need to at any point. But yeah, we can see as they come down into the first corner, Turbo gets on the brakes a little bit earlier than Ross, and a big wallop to the back. Because considering how well that they've been braking at exactly the same time as each other, it's kind of surprising it took this long for that to happen.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And look, in short of saying that Turbo just got his come up and sort of his karma from doing that to Warwick, it hadn't cost him a position, so they sort of redressed it. But what it has done is it's brought Steve Warwick back into this fight as well. So Warwick's now managed to catch up because Ross slowed down to make sure Turbo could get back in front. So that's a redress. So that's not going to cause any problems further down the line. But then Steve Warwick has actually been able to catch back up to the train, but briefly, but he's just sort of dropped back away again. I'm not sure what happened there. He maybe just lost a couple of seconds just a bit later on in the coming down the run towards Ascari, and he's just off the back of them as well. Oh, there's a bit of a scuffle going on back there. I just noticed between Ben Hall and Taipan, and now these two are running side by side here. That looked a little bit ugly coming off of Ascari.
Yeah, it's a bit of rudeness, but it seems like they've worked it out here.
Let's go and have a look at what happened there. Did Ben Hall just send it when there was a gap that wasn't meant to be sent, or what happened? So it looked a bit strange. Oh, Taipan had a moment. Oh, he was very loose.
Oh.
He was very loose coming through the third part of Ascari. And
Steve Warwick and Ben Hall hit it.
Okay, so here we go. Now this is the first real indication of how far these front engine cars can go. They've gone 25 minutes since the drop of the green flag plus formation. Here comes a few more as well. So here comes Zach Brown in the Audi and Gabriel Prado in the Mercedes-Benz. So these guys are now coming down the lane as well. Now Bagsy, I know
tyres for both of them.
Yeah, that's interesting. And here we go, tyres for Prado. No tyres for Brown, is he? He's not in the box.
No, he's not started. He's not started yet. I think Prado and Brown share a box.
Yeah, possibly sharing a box here as well, so they have to queue. And then Hall's gone, and so too is Warwick. There goes Yamamoto down the front straight, so he's going to get Ben Hall comfortably. And then he won't get Warwick, although... No, he won't get Warwick at all. So that's an interesting situation for those front engine cars for how far they can go. Now Bagsy, it is a very short pit lane. It's a very fast pit lane speed limit. One of the things we didn't talk about during the early parts of the broadcast was that it's an 80 km/h pit lane speed limit. It's not exactly slow, but the problem is...
Sorry, speaking of, the leaders are in the pit lane now. Tim Redmond and Noah Tara pitting at the same time, and Greg Tara continues around, so there's not going to be any problems with pit stops between the Tara guys at the moment.
No, strategy Q. Turmo in as well, so...
Oh, but I think there is with Redmond and Noah Tara. It looks... I'm not sure if Noah Tara is getting service at the moment.
Oh,
he's not.
This could be interesting. Yeah, because these are essentially some wildcard cars at the moment. Turmo gets in, and yeah, this is going to be a bit of an... No, Tara looks like he did get service. Maybe he didn't take some tyres. Oh, and he can't get out.
No, I don't think he's been... Surely he hasn't been serviced yet. Or maybe he has.
I'm not sure about that.
If he has, there's not much fuel's gone in there.
We'll have to keep an eye out with that one then. Well, that'll be an interesting talking point. So some drivers not taking tyres and some drivers opting to take tyres. Or maybe not. We'll have to get a question mark out and a slide rule and work out what's going on with all that one. Meanwhile, Greg Tara continues on to lead of this race. Going back to my point, Bagsy, it's a fast pit lane speed limit at 80 k's an hour. It's a relatively short pit lane. one of the shortest on the calendar, but the problem is it's a very high-speed front straight that the pit lane sits opposite. So the trade-off is pretty much as a nil effect. You look at a place like some of the other places we've been to, like Nürburgring, where the pits have been, and it's not a hugely high-speed front straight. Speeds are still up there, but the trade-off is it's a longer pit lane, whereas this one being a bit shorter and a higher pit lane transit speed, sort of equivalent to basically trading off against each other.
Ben Hall has got out ahead of Turmo.
That's an interesting strategy, but I think Ben Hall didn't actually take tyres.
He didn't take tyres.
So yeah, so that's an interesting sort of development in that front.
Greg Turra goes round again.
He's getting a bit of draft assistance as well now, so I'm wondering whether he needs to maybe elongate this first stint. Where's Steve Bolger in all of this? He's moved up to 5th. So here he is coming down to Parabolica. So he's about a sector and a half, or maybe a full sector behind, with Greg Tara coming up to the Della Roggia chicane, which is the end of sector 1, and Bolger coming up to the start-finish line now. So he's about a sector behind, probably about 30 seconds behind Greg Tara overall. So with Tara not having, he's had a bit of a moment there, gone a bit deep at the Della Roggia chicane, as Greg Tara I just saw on the other side of the camera. With Tara not having stopped yet, Bolger's actually not done too bad a job to sort of minimise the amount of pain here.
Taipan and Parrot have pitted. Yeah, it's so what's the difference is 33 seconds to Greg. So it's still about half of a pit stop. There's a long way to go in the race though. He could conceivably get this back.
Ben Hall's about to, sorry, grab your bags. Ben Hall's just jumped Taipan and Parrot as well, so he was actually racing them through the pit stop sequence as well, and because he hasn't taken the tyres, he's actually jumped them. So, and he's got a considerable margin over them now as well. Like they haven't even, Taipan's only just exited the pits, and Ben Hall's actually on his way to Curva Grande. So there is a fair bit of strategy to play out here, and Parrot didn't get serviced because again, with the wildcards and sharing the pit booms, it's a bit of a problem. So a few drivers have now worked out that they share a pit boom with other cars, and that they're going to have to try and vary their strategy accordingly. As race leader is now in, Turra in, Brendan Ross with him. What about Bolger? He's the next one we want to take a look at. Does he go again, or does he commit to coming into the lane? This is a half an hour that Greg Tara's done. He's hit the fuel numbers, and he's hit them well. And so too Brendan Ross. There's actually pretty good fuel mileage for the Porsche. What about Bolger in the mid-engine Ferrari? He is in. So he mirrors Greg Turra. There goes Noah Turra on the other side of the thing. So that's going to be a net gain for Turra. Noah Turra's going to come out the lead here. Naoki Yamamoto's got a penalty. They'll be for pit lane speeding. He's just exited the lane. There he is. Noah Turra rounds him up. And
so that's going to be very interesting for Noah Turra with not taking the tyres there, because he clearly got fuel in the car, otherwise he wouldn't be...
He would have done another lap. He would have come around. He would have gone out and come around straight back in again.
So no tyres. It's a very, very interesting strategy play there, but it has put him a long, long way ahead. He's 16 seconds ahead of Tim Redmond.
Yeah, it's a big margin at the moment. And then Greg Turra's exited the lane, so too is Brendan Ross. And just waiting to see where Steve Bolger drops in all of this. He is about to leave the lane, and he is actually going to get rounded up by Taipan, but I think he might, if he gets out now, he'll get out ahead of Peter Thrower, and yeah, he does.
Greg
so here he is now.
Just came out and missed the second part of the first chicane, and he's actually been overtaken by Ben Hall now, who was one of the ones who didn't take tyres. Warwick is also ahead of him, so that's important for Turra. It's going to cost him a fair bit of time being stuck behind one of these guys who didn't take tyres. And Turmo has actually ended up right behind Turra as well. So Turmo coming out really well because he took tyres. He's closed that gap to Greg Turra significantly.
He has indeed. So Greg Turra has ended up in a GTR sandwich here at the moment. There he is. He's Ben Hall, Greg Turra, and Turmo. So little bit off sequence. So this throws the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of strategy. There's a few different strategy plays out here that we weren't expecting to shake out, and it has really shaken this field up. So with everybody having come in for at least one stop, field order is this. It's Noah Turra with a 10, nearly 11 second lead over Tim Redmond. And Steve Warwick, who has been in, is in third place, so that's a net third for him. I'm not sure if he took tyres or not, but I dare say he probably didn't, given he's jumped up the order. Then Ben Hall, Greg Turra, Termo, Brennan Ross, Taipan, Steve Bolger, and Peter Thrower in the top 10. And followed by Rody, Prado, Brown, Parrott, and Yamamoto. So the big loser out of that one is Cameron Parrott, because he had to share a pit box with Taipan and didn't get service. So he's dropped well down the order here. And Yamamoto, I think, has got to serve a drive-through penalty. And he's actually missed it. So he hasn't served the drive-through just yet.
As Termo, we're looking at the moment, we're looking at Ben Hall. Tara not making any inroads into Ben Hall in that last lap, despite having a significant tyre advantage. This is the sort of track where as long as you can get the power down, you're in a pretty good scenario position. And you're going to have to stop the tyres once at least. It's conceivable that you can make it through the whole race on the same set of tyres, but they'll be quite cooked at the end. They'll look worse than an intermediate tyre after Turkish Grand Prix. It's conceivable you could. I don't think anyone will, because you'll be so slow at the end. But making it on two sets of tyres rather than three is definitely a significant time saver. You're looking at 10 to 20 seconds in the pits that you're saving.
Yeah, you're spot on there. And I don't think they will try and make it on a single set of boots anyway, Bagsy. It's a 2 times tyre wear race as well, being a 2 times fuel race. So you serve no purpose trying to actually make that set of tyres last. You've basically got to change tyres at some point. You've got to take the pain. Now, if you're going to take the pain, you've got to try and take it under a safety car somewhere if that sort of suits you, if it actually falls your way. But at the moment, with 55 minutes left to go, there's no safety cars just yet. It's been relatively well behaved. The only major drama so far has been the Steve Bolger incident early on in the race that very nearly triggered a safety car. We had a little yellow flag for a moment there, localised yellow flag, and I'm wondering what that might be. Actually, I think it's for Naoki Yamamoto, who's just serving a drive-through penalty at the moment. He's actually come in for a stop. So I think maybe he thinks that this might actually be a stop-go penalty rather than a drive-through. He's going to find himself in a bit of trouble. It's just a drive-through at the pit lane speed limit.
So we're looking at Tara still with Termo, and they're actually both close, and Ben Hall ahead. They're all closing in on Steve Warwick fairly quickly. Remember, Warwick was one of those who took, as it looks like, Yamamoto has DNF.
Yeah, so I think that's just a failure to serve the penalty. I think he's just not known how to serve the drive-through penalty there, so he's found himself in a bit of drama with that one.
But yeah, Warwick, one of the people who didn't take tyres, along with Noah Tara and Ben Hall, and Ben Hall doesn't seem to be struggling.
Noah Tara very wide. Noah Tara very wide. He's off our screen very wide. That's how far wide is he? He's in the weeds.
He's on his way again.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether or not this is a side effect of the decision not to take tyres, because he was well wide there coming into Parabolica. Let's have a look at that one again on the replay.
I'm going to take a guess that it might just be too much curb going into Parabolica.
No, he was well off the curb. He was way wide. Look how wide he was. Like he was in the weeds. He was just overcommitted, I think, there.
Yeah, where'd it start though?
It started about mid-corner, so he was actually well off the apex mid-corner and carrying too much speed. So off he goes. So that's a bit of a scare, and that's dropped 4 seconds alone to Tim Redmond, just in that one corner. 4 seconds gone like that. There is Redmond, back a shot, just starting to emerge into the chicane now. He's been putting in some pretty handy sector times as well. And his last lap, well faster than Noah Tara. Even if Noah Tara hadn't had that excursion at Parabolica, Redmond would have been faster by about a second, because his last lap was a 49.8. He's the only man sub 150 on that last tour.
Yeah, he was only going at about 0.6 of a lap faster before Noah's incident, and he what was that? Looks like Termo's had a bit of a trip across the chicane to the Della Roggia chicane.
Yeah, there's been a bit of a moment there because Greg Tara's actually lost out. Termo's gone ahead, so I think maybe there might have been a little issue there, or maybe Greg Tara's gone back into a fuel save mode again.
I'm just curious as to where Steve Bolger is. He's coming into the Della Roggia chicane now.
He's 9th and he's trailing tight.
He's about a pit stop off of our race leader, Noah Tara, at the moment.
Yes, correct. So 58 seconds from himself to Noah Tara, but mind you, Noah Tara with the shorter stop. He will have to stop and put some fresh boots on again. And this is going to be an interesting decision here for Steve Bolger about whether or not he decides to take tyres in the final stint or not, given he's now got Noah Tara out in front. He can actually see that Noah Tara has not taken tyres and he's come out ahead, and see how much the tyres give up toward the end of the stint. So this is good information for Bolger if he can maybe gain a couple of spots through some clever strategy here by not taking some tyres, leapfrogging some of these cars that he might not otherwise catch up to. So in this stint, he's honing in on the back of Taipan now. Brendan Ross is another 20 seconds up the road, and whether or not he actually can make up that deficit, I'm not sure. But then he's also got people like Ben Hall and Steve Warwick who haven't taken tyres either, that have to take them at the next stop.
You know, Ben Hall, he's just been passed by Termo, so Termo's new tyres using that advantage to get ahead of Ben Hall. But Greg Tara just doesn't seem to be liking this set of tyres he's got on this stint. Unless he's really aggressively fuel saving, he's just really struggling at the moment, as Termo's had an incident into Della Roggia, so Ben Hall might just say, thank you very much, I'll take that back from you.
Yep, ran right around the outside at Lesmo 1, and that's about the third time I've seen Termo make that sort of mistake at turn number 4 and 5.
Rhodey's in
race as well, and that's early for Rhodey. So that's
interesting.
That's really
it's only a 6-lap stint.
Now I think I'm not sure what's playing out here. Yeah, so Rhodey's in for a stop, and I just seen Steve Bolger move up to 7th place, so I'm just wondering. Oh, there's actually a timing glitch, so there we go. So that's now rectified itself. I was a bit worried for a minute there that he'd gained an extra spot because somebody had fallen off the road, and that the answer to that was no. Now Termo's got Ben Hall back again here, but Hall with the draft assistance down the chute towards Parabolica. Can't do anything with it though. Termo hangs on to it for the moment. Around the final corner, and Hall tried to have a bit of a slipstream look at Termo up straight here. Here's a good angle. Termo doesn't want to let him have it. He just lets him close in. Hall gets a good run here with the draft assistance, and now they're side by side, and now Termo's got to leave him some room, and Hall's got to do the same. And Hall angles toward the corner there, gets up in front of Termo, and that's a good pass, but he just can't quite control it on the exit there. And he's lit the tyres up while they've been in the grass, and now that'll give Termo an opportunity to maybe run right around the outside of Curva Grande and hang on, going up to the Della Roggia chicane.
We see he's had to tuck back in here because he just wasn't quite able to get the grip, and honestly being on the outside there when Ben Hall was clipping bits of grass was a bit dangerous. Ben Hall, takes
over and under
curb there, and Termo just says thank you very much. Straight through he goes.
Textbook
well
move.
played there from Termo.
Yeah, gap opened up very sweetly for Termo there, and took full advantage of it the minute it was presented to him, and gets back underneath Ben Hall for position number 4. I have to say, Ben Hall is actually a very surprising drive from him so far, and a very aggressive strategy to take no tyres at that stop. I've seen him do some rather good racing in some of the other ASR series, but Termo's all over the road here.
I'm going to bet that Termo was checking his fuel and thinking about adjusting his fuel there.
Warwick, yes.
Missed Ascari.
He completely and utterly missed Ascari there.
That's the thing, these two have still been catching Warwick despite their battling. It's pretty intense. And yeah, Ben Hall, he's really taken the race on with this strategy call, and it's put him right up in contention. He's up 11 positions from the start.
Yeah, it's a big gamble, And some of the driving he's been doing in some of the other ASR series, he's been getting some top 10s. He's got a couple of wins, I think, in Aussie racing cars. The minis earlier on in the year, I think he got one as well. I'm sure I'll be quoted if I'm wrong at the end of the night. But his driving standard has actually picked up quite an awful amount. So boxing on with one of the seasoned veterans in Turmo is no mean feat. And he's doing a rather good job of it at the moment. Now he's just tucked back in behind him in 5th place. Greg Turra, what was his last lap around? It was a 51.5, so that's a fuel number that I'm sort of interested to look at with what Greg Turra's doing. Steve Bolger 50.8, and he's got a little bit of a toe here. He's now caught Taipan, the Lamborghini. The other Italian stallion in this race is punching a nice hole in the air for Ferrari. And I think position number 8 is going to be on the cards for Steve Bolger here in just a few moments' time.
Does look like it. Up the front, the Noah Tara Redmond battle is now 1.2 seconds between the two of them. Noah Tara, of course, didn't take tyres. Redmond did. Noah Tara, the other person who's using...
Sorry, Bagsy. Taipan has just gone straight on at the Della Rogers chicane, and Bolger has just had the easiest place handed to him all day.
Well, that's... Bolger's happy to see something going his way. But yeah, Taipan just sort of vanished there for a second.
Tara in. Noah Tara in.
Tara
this
in.
is interesting.
Well,
now, Noah Tara did not take tyres. This is a big question. This is very early, considering when they came in for first stop.
Only stop.
No, surely not. He's not taking any tyres. Oh, he's missed the box.
He didn't line. He
missed the box. That's a huge problem. That's a big mistake. So Redmond goes sailing through here into position number 1. So I don't know whether or not Noah Tara felt the tyres were starting to go there or something. That's a bit of a question mark.
He's definitely fueling up as well. So, but yeah, he has to make at least one more pit stop in a 3-stop race here. That's unfortunately going to cost him a lot of time. Ben Hall's in as well.
He is indeed. So that's another spot.
2 of them.
Yep, and Ben Hall he's missed the box as well. Has he?
Right,
yeah, he has. Oh, yeah, he's trying to get service from. There he goes. He's finally got it. Now Noah Tara's going to have to grab reverse here as well. So that's a bit of an issue for these guys. So the strategies are all starting to play out here now. And as Noah Tara grabs reverse and now gets going. Now that puts Warwick and Turmo into the top 3 along with Redmond. And there's Greg Tara now P4, Brendan Ross P5, and Redmond with a 30-second advantage at the moment.
Yeah, Redmond's has been let off to play by himself today. Warwick, the other person with no tyres who's still going, I don't think the other two made the correct call. I think it's better to suffer and make it through to a second pit stop rather than going for a 3-stop.
Here we go again, Bagsy. It's on again. So Turmo's really pushing Steve Warwick along like he did in the opening stanza here as well. So these two have got the band back together again. And I'm interested to see now what Steve Warwick's lap times are like. It was a 52.2 last time around. He had a little bit of a mistake this lap. I'm wondering whether or not he's got some tyres that are starting to suffer as well. Whereas Turmo's got a very nice fresh set of boots on underneath, but again, does not want to go sailing past the Bentley.
Yeah, it did seem like the same as last time, except this time Brendan Ross isn't involved in their little battle as well. No. But we can see him in the background occasionally along with Greg Tara as well. So this could become a 4-way battle, but I think it's all about fuel saving at the moment.
I think so. And you can see now that Turmo's got a little bit of separation on Warwick here. They go through turn 1 and 2. So Hall's come out after his stop in 13th. Noah Tara's come out of his stop in position number 8, just ahead of Peter Thrower in the McLaren. So the interesting bit that I'm now looking at is that Steve Bolger has, of course, dispatched of Taipan already. What time is he now making up on Brendan Ross? He's actually, he's out to, what is it now, 14 seconds is the gap between himself and Brendan Ross at the moment. And then it's another 3 seconds further up the field to Greg Turris. So that gap at about 20 seconds is actually sort of come down from the beginning of the first round of stops, because it was near 30 with Greg Turris going into a fuel save mode. or what we perceive to be a fuel save mode. He's lost a little bit of time here, so I don't think it's enough at this stage for him to lose a position overall in this race.
The important thing though is Bolger's bring himself into a position where he can skip tyres and then be equal with or ahead of Greg Tara to be able to try and make that strategy work. We've seen people are able to continue to push without tyres, and we're seeing Warwick is doing a pretty good job considering the position he's in, being harassed by Turmo and that. So it is possible. Will it be the winning strategy over him? I don't know, but at least it puts him in with a shot versus just being stuck between. At the rate he's going, he's not going to catch Greg by the end of the race. It's just too much of a gap to overcome. But it means he can be a bit more risky with his strategy.
This is going to end in tears here again, Bagsy. I'm sort of worried that this issue between Turmo and Steve Warwick, where Warwick's getting pushed along by Turmo, is going to end in tears again. I'm almost worried that we're going to have to call him Turmo the Terrier. Just like one of those little, white dogs that just nips at your heels and goes all the time. That's all that Turmo's doing right now, is just annoying the hell out of Steve Warwick.
So I don't know if he's doing it because for fuel saving reasons or just to get into Warwick's head, try and frustrate him off the track, or if he's just gets some kind of perverse pleasure from it. But whatever it is, it's bloody entertaining because they're right next to each other. It's bringing Greg Tara and Brandon Ross back into this.
Yeah, now Greg Tara is now getting a really nice toe off the back of both of these cars. You're getting a double toe essentially as they come down all these straights now, and this is helping his fuel numbers very, very importantly too, because he's got to stretch this stop out and get to 30 minutes remaining at the bare minimum. If you go a little bit further beyond 30 minutes, that'd be perfect for Greg Tara. Now they've got some lap traffic these guys are going to have to deal with as well. So Rhodey's number 10 Mercedes-Benz is going to have to get out of the way in about a half a lap, I think. Warwick will get a toe from that. Turmo will get a toe from him. Greg Tara will get a toe from Turmo, and Brendan Ross not that far away either. Bolger, I'm just keeping an eye on, is just coming down to Ascari now, so he's not that far away from emerging into the back of shot. He's getting ever closer, and he's actually picked his pace up a little bit now too, so the gap between himself and Greg Tara is now at less than 20 seconds. It's actually at 18, so Bolger has definitely picked his pace up.
Warwick has pit, so Warwick not able to live with those tyres apparently, and so he will be unfortunately for him, dropping down the field because he's going to have to make a second stop as well.
Yep, he's gone longer than Hall and Noah Turret did. That's the important thing. I think he came in maybe a lap later, so he's gone at least another 2 or 3 laps longer than Noah Turret did. So that'll be interesting information for Steve Bolger, who now moves up to 5th in all of that, with them coming in for a stop. And they're going to have to stop again as well. So Bolger can get to the 30-minute mark here. Steve Bolger will be fine. Steve Warwick will have to stop again.
Tara's through on Turmo. He used the lap traffic of Rhodey as a pick.
And Turmo through now as well on Rhodey, and that now leaves Brendan Ross to get through. So Turmo through Lesmo 2. Greg Tara's already through. Brendan Ross should get past Rhodey here quite easily, and does. Or does he? No, he doesn't. Poke of the Mercedes-Benz in a straight line is good news for Rhodey. It's not good news for Brendan Ross, but Rhodey has blue flags here, and now lets him go through at the bottom of the straight just before they enter the first part of Ascari, which is turn 7.
Oh, big moment there for Ross.
10.
Greg Tara got Rhodey was bounced over the curbs in the De La Roggia chicane, and Turmo being right behind him had to get off the throttle, and so Tara just put it straight to the inside, and there was nothing Turmo could do because
Ross is a little bit wide there, and Rhodey's just got back underneath him. So
he just wants that extra slipstream again.
I don't know if he
improve his lap time. He wants to improve his lap time for the next lap in the slipstream.
The next time around, needs to get a real good slingshot here. I don't think this was in the plan for Brendan Ross. As Gabriel Prado looks like he's just exited the lane for the second time as well, so he's going to stop again shortly, and Rossi down the inside gets that job done. And can he get onto the back of Turmo quickly, and can continue to draft along. I think he might have just lost the draft for the moment here. What about Turmo? He's still got a draft on Greg Tara, and they've got lap traffic with Prado now about to go a lap down to these guys. Look at Tara, look how aggressive he is on the turn in for turn 4 bags. Like, the tail's drifting away, and he just somehow manages to catch it beautifully and just get that car pointing in the right direction, put the power down, and keep going. Now, a little bit of lap traffic here for Gabriel Prado, and gets out of the way.
Ooh,
good job. A little bit late, but
Justin's helped Turmo a lot here too.
as
As the race leader is in, Tim Redmond in the pits, the race leader.
this is early. This is early for Redmond. He's going to have to stop again here, or he's going to have to do a huge amount of fuel saving, because this is way too early to make it from here. But mind you, he's been doing some pretty stellar lap times up until this point. His last lap, though, was a 53.7. He did make a mistake in the last sector on his in-lap.
That being said, he was 50 seconds ahead. He was a full pit stop ahead before he took his pit stop to start this second round of the pit stop sequences. So honestly, he can almost afford it with the pace he's had tonight. He can do that extra stop.
Yeah. So he's taken the tyres, and race leader is now going to be Greg Tara from Turmo and Brendan Ross. So that's going to be your top 3. And they come across the line. There they go. Redmond's still stationary. Now, what about Steve Bolger? Here he comes, and he's going to nab Redmond as well. 50.5 for Steve Bolger last time around, only 4/10 off his best. So that's actually some pretty good numbers from Steve Bolger at the moment. Punching out some really solid numbers. There's Redmond emerging from the pit exit. And I think he's going to be safe from Taipan, maybe just.
Taipan's going at quite a rate of knots there, but he is able to.
Yeah, that's a good gap for Redmond. So he's timed that probably as best as he could time it. That little mistake in the last sector, I think, probably has hurt. Had maybe sort of put that being a bit of a borderline exit in front of Taipan. But nonetheless, Redmond continues on, and he's definitely going to have to stop again. So all attention now turns bags into this top 3 or 4 and where they fit into this. Bolger has continued to chip away here. He's now got this margin to the race leader in what is Greg Tara, who was the man he's been looking at anyway, down to just under 15 seconds. So he's playing himself in really, really well here. And with one stop to go, what is going to be the strategy here? Do you think he's going to gamble on not taking tyres, or do you think he's going to take them and just continue to put the numbers in that we've seen him put in?
I think it'll depend on when Greg Tara comes in. If Greg Tara comes in the next, say, 2 laps, then he will probably not worry about getting the tyres, because he'll assume that Greg has to stop at least again for a splash and dash. Otherwise, I think he'll take the punt as Turmo is in as well. So it seems like the GTRs being a bit thirstier than the BMWs today.
Well, they're all in the same category. They've all got front engines. They've all got the same physics, so they all drink the same amount of fuel in theory. It's all about how much of the right foot the driver wants to use to make it all happen. Bolger now up into P3. You did see him just start to emerge into the back of shot. There's the race leaders just going through there. And if you look on this shot, there is Bolger coming into the Redifilio chicane. So the gap is slowly starting to inch closer. He took half a second out of Greg Tara on that last lap alone. So Bolger with a 51, actually it was Bolger with a 51 flat, and Greg Tara was a 51 flat as well. I actually was looking at the lap times. It must have come down in the lap prior. How's this, Bagsy? They set identical lap times last time around. I kid you not, they both did a 1 minute 51.082. Well, that's according to ASRleague.liveraces.com anyway.
Yeah, I got the same data here, and they couldn't separate him over that lap, which is very, very interesting. I mean, honestly, in terms of tyres, I think they're about the same. It's just how they're using him. Greg Tara's doing that lap under pressure, though, from Brendan Ross right behind him.
Yeah, Ross is racing him here.
Bolger is sort of off in his own little spot there. About 15, 17 seconds behind, and Redmond is behind Bolger now. So if Redmond has to stop again, which I'm almost certain he will,
he'll hope it will be a shorter stop, much shorter stop than Bolger's, so he'll be able to get out ahead of him still, because that gap is about 13 seconds, so he'll probably need a splash and dash.
So Greg Tara with a 50.571. That's his fastest lap of the race actually as well. So he's pulling this out right toward, I think, the point in time where he's going to need to stop again. What about Brendan Ross? His fastest lap that last time around as well, 50.243. So 2 race leaders at the moment turn their 2 quickest laps on approach to what is going to likely be their last stop of the race, and then Bolger with a 50.480. So he was a tenth of a second quicker than Tara, but he was 0.2 of a second slower than Ross, and Ross has got the draft assistance as well. So now the gap between Bolger and Tara just starts to stabilise a little bit as we tick down with 32 minutes remaining, and the last stops, hopefully for these drivers, only a lap or 2 away.
Yeah, that'll be the interesting thing, is seeing who stops when, who blinks first, because they really need to be able to make it the whole way to the end. Any splash and dash is going to hurt you so much. And we see Redmond, he was so far ahead, and now he's clearly fully fueled and tired up that car, so he's probably going to need a very short stop. Hopefully it doesn't cost him the race win on strategy there, because he pushed so hard in that stint that he made such a gap. It'd be a shame to see him lose out because of it.
He's got some traffic in the form of Zach Brown that he needs to clear as well here. Now Brown running along is the last classified driver. He's 1 lap down at the moment on the race leaders, but he's the last classified driver in this race. Redmond goes sailing on through, moves over to assume the line for the first part of Ascari, turn 8, switch back to turn 9. Bit of a hard part of the circuit, turn 9, probably one of the most difficult parts of the circuit, because you're turning to the right and the car gets into a zone where it wants to change up to the next gear, and you've sort of got to be careful that you don't do anything to upset the car on the gear change going through that corner, because you sort of want to hold the car to the right for the next left-hander, where you can basically get in it, turn the car for the corner and then just bury the throttle straight out, maximise your straightaway speed down towards a parabolic. So probably the most challenging part of the circuit to get right, because if you get it wrong, you either end up in the weeds or you end up losing so much time down that chute towards the final corner that you end up getting overtaken.
Tim Redmond is closing in on Bolger little by little, 0.2 of a second on that last lap, and even though Bolger set a purple final sector, Redmond still seems to have the pace overall on those newer tyres.
Just doing my math at the moment, Bagsy, I've got a funny feeling I might be expecting to see Greg Turrer and Steve Bolger in this lap. This is probably about the time where they came in. I'm sure your math that you've got in that little book of yours agrees with us. And there we go. There's a little cog appearing above the number 1 for Greg Turrer, right on cue, just as we were talking about it. And the next question is whether or not Brendan Ross will cover him or he'll go again. But Ross had got some pretty good mileage out of the Porsche in terms of fuel numbers, so...
It hit the same time as Tara and Bolger last time.
Oh, it is a bit wide there off the final part of Ascari too, so he loses a couple of car lengths to the BMW. Bolger should start to emerge into the back of this shot in a minute. There's Gabriel Prado, and there's Bolger just at the top of the straight, so he's got visual on the race leaders at the minute. Now it's going to be a pit stop race, I think. Oh, Tara wide, very wide. Did he? He did take tyres at the last stop anyway, but that's extremely wide. And Ross, no, feigns it, goes around. Okay, so this is an interesting dilemma in this one. What about Bolger? Does he come in for this one? Looks like he is.
Looks like he is.
We think he is, and he is. So
the question is, does he take tyres? Greg comes to a stop.
And Tara is taking tyres, so let's see what Bolger does there. His pit box is right at the top end of pit lane as well, so he'll go past Cameron Parrott, he'll go past Greg Tara, and he sees what Tara's doing. Is he taking the tyres? Is he taking the risk? It's a zero risk for Steve Bolger, and I think that's probably the right call. I think that is 100% the right call from Steve Bolger. He was making good pace with with the new tyres from the last stop. And I think he'll use that pace at the end here. And remember, he's just got to tail Greg Tara home. And as it stands right now, it looks like it's going to be, it's Redmond that's probably going to assume the lead of this race once Brendan Ross comes in for his final stop. But we know that Redmond's got to stop again. Probably expecting Noah Tara will have to stop again as well. And then it'll reveal Greg Tara probably as the lead of this race. He's good to the flag here, I think, now, Greg Tara. He's now exiting the lane.
Yeah.
And so too Steve Bolges. They can just pretty much run pound for pound, fight for fight, right to the flag here.
Do you know what the thing is, though? Greg Tara has come out ahead of Warwick and Ben Hall and Termo as well. Bolger is going to be behind all of them, and those guys really, like the Termo and co, Termo, Warwick and Ben aren't going to be pitting for a little while yet. Yeah, they're probably going to try and run this tank down as long as possible to do a short stop at the end, so he's going to have to pass them on merit, or he might get caught up behind them and lose time. And that's the thing, the biggest thing for him, Greg is his competition, but also Tim Redmond, who is currently sidling through some back markers.
This wasn't in the plan, Bagsy. This wasn't in the plan. Greg Tara getting passed by Steve Warwick. Steve Warwick with much warmer tyres at the moment, uses the temperature to full advantage and goes through. So that wasn't in the script for Tara. They picked the gap to go into. It fitted nicely, just managed to get through, but Tara's tyres definitely not up to operating temperature and operating range just yet. And on they go. Ross is in. So Brendan Ross has pit from the lead of this race. That now reveals Tim Redmond going back to the head of the queue. Noah Tara now going through into second place. And then this battle on screen here, Warwick, Greg Tara, Ben Hall, they're now going to try and reveal themselves when they show their hand on how Brendan Ross is going here, who's still stationary in the lane. There he is. And here come this trio of cats right around the final corner.
It's actually very important for Brendan Ross to see if he manages to Tara in the pits. I think he's going to, because he's right at the end of pit lane, so he is going to jump Tara in the pits.
This is going to be tight as well, and there he goes. So he's got to get up to speed here. This could be a net gain for Brendan Ross. It's a massive net gain for Brendan Ross.
Oh, and Ben Hall in the background.
And he's taken tyres as well. Hall now makes a move on Greg Tara and gets the job done. Now looks on Steve Warwick.
Oh,
those two have history as well from the last round of Paul Ricard as well. They got a little bit silly going down into one of the chicanes, and was the cause of the safety car early on in that race. Warwick and Hall don't want to be tripping over each other too much, but that's a massive net gain from Brendan Ross, and he's good to the flag here now. This could be a win for the Porsche.
Well, I don't know if it'll be a win, because he is still a whole minute behind Tim Redmond. And Tim Redmond, we know he won't have to take tyres. He'll just have to do a quick splash for fuel, and he should be able to get in, get out. Unless he makes a mistake and fills up the tank to full, he should be able to go for a quick in and out. Honestly, he could probably do it now and try and avoid any shenanigans by just going and quickly putting fuel in and then going.
The thing for Redmond is he's got some traffic. He's cleared Peter Thrower, he's cleared Rhodey, he's just got to clear Gabriel Prado here for one last time, and then there's no other traffic between him and the next man up the road is Taipan. He's all the way down at Lesmo 1 right now, so there's plenty of room there, and Prado's just staying to the left here. It lets Redmond through. It's good driving.
The thing is, though, is if he went and did the quick splash and dash now, just topped up, there is a big gap between the lap traffic that's behind him and third place man, soon to be eventually second place man once Noah Tara pits, Brendan Ross. There's a big old gap that he can drop himself straight into and not have to worry about traffic. So I think it depends. Maybe he's able to baby it to the end on fuel, in which case I'll be suitably impressed. I don't think it's possible though.
No, from my math, he was 7 minutes too early. He needed to get to the 30-minute mark, and he wasn't quite there. So there is probably a splash and dash on the cards. The only thing that saves him is a safety car. That's the only thing that'll probably save his bacon on having to do another stop and hang on to this one. It'll probably save Noah Tara, or it'll go close to saving Noah Tara's bacon as well. But I think that he stopped a little bit earlier, if my math is correct, Bagsy, than Tim Redmond. So he's got a lot more work to do to make it home from here.
Noah Tara's stopped 5 laps earlier.
Yeah, so it's a big
But he's not going to. Yeah, I think for Redmond, I think it's better to get it out the way now, because a safety car is worse for you than in terms of that, than just pitting now and getting out the way, because if you do it now, this is of course on the assumption that he has to. If he doesn't have to, well, so be it. But he did stop on lap 28, so that was quite a while ago now.
And he
I
just did
don't think he has the ability.
and he just posted a 49.8 as well, which again is one of the fastest laps of the race. Or it's the only man at the moment that's doing sub 1 minute 50s. So based on those fuel numbers alone, just on the lap time, saying to me he's not carrying. Then there it is. The safety car rears its head. It comes out at a really awkward time, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly happened.
I believe it was Peter Thrower and Rhodey in the first corner from the looks of it.
It may very well have been. Safety car freezes the pit lane and the field. Let's have a look at this one. So a late race safety car and a late race drama. Was it this incident? I think you might be right, Bagsy. You are correct. Thrower into the back of Rhodey, and the safety car makes appearance. Brown has to take evasive action. Greg Turra had to take some evasive action as well. And
So the big thing is, who does this benefit? Well, it benefits Warwick and Ben Hall a fair bit, actually, I think, because they can either take the pit stop and tyres and have fresh tyres to attack people, or, I mean, I just trying to think, well, where was it? Warwick 27. I don't think they can make it to the end. They were doing 14. Turbo's done the longest stint with a... Brendan Ross has done the longest stint with a 17 lap stint. So at the moment those guys are about 10 laps into the stint. So actually, I think this might have brought Warwick and Hole back into this race, and maybe Noah Tara probably not, but
you've got Greg Tara off behind the safety car, by the way.
Lewis Wedding, Lewis Wedding actually just popping in here as well. Greg Tara actually having gone off the road somewhere as well. So what's happened to Greg Tara? So this is very, very interesting for him. We cycle back to pick him up, and let's go have a look at that on the replay and see what happened to Greg Tara. Did he just lose it a little bit here? Very nice to hear the thoughts of Lewis Wedding, which means he's probably got a limited amount of power here at the moment as well. He's he's gone off at Curva Grande, and he was just well wide of the racing line there. That's a very unusual sort of thing there. And look who it put him right next to, Steve Bolger. So that goes to show you just how much that little off-track excursion for Greg Turra has just cost him.
Unfortunate for Tim Redmond, because he's probably the biggest loser out of all this, because it takes a race that was really in his hands and has thrown it up in the air, basically. You know, I'm going to say with almost total certainty that Noah Turra isn't going to make it to the end. He's going to pit, but he's going to have fresh tyres at the back of the field and be ready and raring to go to try and claim some people before the end of the race. No one else really is going to want to stop, because it will hurt their chances too much. Warwick and Ben Hall are going to be the ones to watch here, because they're the ones who could make it on fuel, especially it depends on how long this safety car goes for. It is a quite fast track even for the safety car, so it's although because the safety car's 100.
There's a bit of a problem here, because you've got Rhodey driving slowly behind the safety car and he's not catching it.
No,
so
spot on. And he's just gone through the chicane at the Della Rogers chicane as well. So he needs to be told to pick up the pace here, because you're right. Look on the screen here. We've got Redmond and Zach Brown, who's a lap car, caught behind the safety car. They're down at the bottom part of Ascari, and Rhodey's holding up this field coming through Lesmo 1 and 2. So he's probably needs to be told to pick up the pace to catch onto the back of it.
I think he has just picked up the safety car. But one thing that's interesting, if these guys actually do catch up to the back of the safety car, I don't think Redmond's I've just jumped in a bit late here, but obviously the last pit stop cycle, I don't think he'd be able to make it, and it looks like he's actually coming in. So the safety car coming out has definitely hurt him, because obviously you can't pit the first lap once the safety car comes out. The pits are closed, and that means the field closes up. So he's not going to be too bad off, because Rhodey's done him a bit of a solid
and
there.
And Noah Turra coming with him. Here they come.
But they're definitely going to lose out positions here, I'd imagine.
Yep. So they're going to take the paint. So now for Redmond, this has just got to be a fuel-only stop. Splash and dash. Same for Noah Turra. They've got to get out quickly and get their position in the lane. So,
and then number of cars.
Oh, no, and there's off. There's Parrott off. There's Ross is off as well. what is going on behind the safety car at the moment? There's attention spans are going out the window at the moment.
Everyone's trying to think about.
Oh, here we go, and there goes Warwick and Turbo are in as well, so they couldn't make it. So that's an interesting discussion point here as well. A number of these front engine cars that we thought might have been brought back into the equation here have not made it. So what happened here? So Ross was just, so Thrower was wide, and then Parrot was wide, and there was all sorts of shenanigans going on there with just 3 cars just well wide of the apex at turn 11. Brody went into the pits as well, so too did Warwick, so too did Turmo, and a bunch of others as well.
It's like I said, he should have, Redmond should have pit. I mean, I think he could have made it if he'd stayed out, honestly. But he should have pit before the safety car. He should have, he didn't take the race on, and it's cost him significantly. He's now behind Noatara. Noatara jumped him in the pit stop there. Taipan's a big winner out of this, as Rody gets a driving penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Bolger now up into 3rd position with Greg Tara. So after all this, it's going to be Ross, Greg Tara and Bolger going at it for the win.
It is, and the other 2 drivers have just been instructed to pass the safety car. So there was a Thrower and Brown were caught behind the safety car. There goes Cam Parrott, so he's gone through as well now. And that'll be some of the other shenanigans going on there. So Brown and Thrower were just instructed to pass that car and get through, because the rules always stipulate that if you are caught between the safety car and the race leader, which at the current moment is Brendan Ross, as we just lost Ben Hall from this one, if you are caught between the safety car and the race leader, you have to pass it and catch up to the back of the train. Now with Redmond and co coming in, that then revealed a number of lap traffic cars caught between the now race leader of Brendan Ross. So to make sure that the gangway was clear, they had to get out of the way, and they've done just that. So, what is about to happen here? We're going to get the safety car coming in this next stanza, or are we going to go again? I'm not quite sure, but the situation is as follows. As what's Parrott done there? He's just gone through and... what's he done there?
Pits.
Oh, he's in the pits. He's in the pits. So, and he was one of the ones, he wasn't told to pass the safety car, but the penalty would probably be clear with that one anyway. So, race order. Currently, Brendan Ross at the head of this queue from Greg Turrett, Steve Bolger, Taipan. Where's he come from in all of this? He's got the Lamborghini up to 4th. Question mark will be whether or not he can go any further in this race.
I didn't record when he pit last, so I'm not sure what his fuel situation is at all.
I'll have a look at what he is on the radar here. We'll just have a look at this while we've actually got a bit of time, because we are going again. So his last stop, his first stop was on lap 16, and his second stop was on lap 32. So he might just make it here, because we're predicting somewhere between 48 and 50 laps. If you do your numbers based on that, that's 16 laps apiece. And the safety car intervention is probably going to cut that down. I think he might be good to the end here.
Yeah, I think so too. That's
Rossi, we know, is definitely good to the end. Greg Tara's good to the end. Steve Bolger is good to the end. We've got a funny feeling that Taipan now is as well. We know that Noah Tara and Tim Redmond are good to the end, and they've only had to do a splash and dash here, but their tyres are worse off compared to the top 3. So they might struggle a little bit just to make it from here.
Warwick and Turmo didn't take tyres.
Did they, or did they? I think
they did not.
No, Warwick and Turmo didn't take tyres, but I don't think that Noah Tara and Redmond did either, because they didn't have a choice. Redmond did.
Redmond took tyres, Noah Tara didn't. I did have a look at the replay, and Redmond's car was elevated, so that's why he ended up behind Noah at the pit stop after being sort of ahead of him just before it. So yeah, that's why he ended up behind him. So he's going to want to actually look out for here. He's going to have the freshest tyres of the lot, and obviously he's had the fastest pace all night, so look for him.
Absolutely. And I'm I'm seeing what's going on here as well. A number of the drivers being issued some penalties here because they've passed the safety car as they've been instructed to do, but then they've actually come into pit lane to actually complete a pit stop when they've been trying to catch the back of the train.
It's I'm still very surprised that Redmond, Warwick, and Turmo came in. I think it would have been better for them to, especially with this extra lap behind the safety car. They would, as Brendan Ross is doing some aggressive weaving there, almost off the track, they would have been
in such a better position if they had kept the track position and tried for a win on an economy run.
Yeah, now the interesting part here as well is I'm just having a look through the field as I'm just watching Peter Thrower's just exited the lane, so he's got about a half a lap to catch up to the safety car here. There's one penalty that's got to be served in this one, and that's Rhodey for a drive-through penalty. Now, he would have called that for pit lane speeding because he came in under the safety car, so that's a penalty that's not going to be cleared for that one. The drivers that have been told to pass the safety car have had their penalties sorted out. So there's Zach Brown. He's now caught up to the back of the train, so that puts him back on the lead lap. In fact, it puts everybody bar Rhodey, who is actually about 3/4 of the way down this train, on the lead lap again. Right, now expecting safety car to be in. It's accelerated away, and Ross has got control of this field. So 12 minutes remains. I suspect we're going to get about 6 to 7 laps in here, as it will be a penalty to be sorted out for Zach Brown. So he's been told that that will be taken away from him. But here we go for a restart. Bagsy.
Yeah, Brendan Ross is waiting, he's waiting. There it goes. And he's got Greg Tara, he's dropped Greg Tara a bit actually. Bolger is going to go for it into the first corner, I think. And all three of them have gapped Taipan, who's going to be under a lot of pressure as they fan out coming down to the first corner. Brendan Ross has the whole shot off of the restart. A good restart from Greg Tara, using the power of that BMW has stayed ahead of Bolger. And they're all filing through fairly neatly at the front. It doesn't look like anyone's come to grief. So very well behaved restart there. Taipan has remained in fourth, even with the pack hounding behind him. Redmond is trying to get past Tara. He's going left and right. He's decided to go for the right-hand side, but Tara's going for the left-hand side of Taipan into De La Roggia.
Oh, there's
he's
a little
hit
bit
the
of
curb.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there as well.
But Taipan has stayed ahead and has opened the door for Redmond, who's going to get the place of Tara into Lesmo 1.
Very good job.
So well positioned for
He
Redmond.
got two.
He's going to get, he's got both of them. 2 for 1 special for Redmond, as Noah Tara wants to get Taipan as well. Taipan's being absolutely flooded with people.
Redmond's wide. Yep, and that's going to compromise him. That's
I
compromising
think Noah
him.
Tara's back to the wrong horse though, because he went behind Taipan. He probably should have gone behind Redmond, even though he was slow.
Almost 3 wide on the run down to Ascari. Almost
It
3
is 3 wide.
And look at this. Noah
Taipan's
Tara
behind.
right around the outside. Can he get the job?
Oh,
Oh,
Bolger's
Bolger's around. What happened there to Steve Bolger?
Bolger was around in front, and then he made contact with, I think, was that Redmond maybe, or Noah Tara?
I think
but
it was
regardless,
Noah.
whoever he made contact with, he's still going.
I think it was Noah
There's
Tara
three
that he
wide
made
going
contact.
down.
We're just having a quick look at the replay here. Sorry to cut you across your bags. We want to have a look at what happened to Bolger here. Did he do this all on his own? You can see the pack fanning out behind him. Oh, no, he got into the back of Greg Tara, and that's what turned him around. And then here's the little bit of contact. Just he was stationary, and the other Tara gave him a good whack for his trouble while he was sitting on the outside of the turn. So Bolger has had some major dramas tonight. Early on in this race, having whatever computer problems he was having that's caused him to drop all the way down as far as 15th place, then fights his way back up into the top 3, then has another moment, and his championship has just been turned on its head again.
Just gone, the pendulum's just been swinging back and forth for him all night. And it looked like, just from the single viewing we've had, it looked like it was Bolger's own mistake that caused it. But I'm sure that'll be debated later on after the race. Brendan Ross is still holding his own against Greg Tara at the front. Noah Tara's just bounced across the De La Roggia chicane, still behind Redmond. And Taipan is still valiantly fighting off Turmo and Warwick.
Yeah, Taipan's a bit of a boxing sort of punching bag at the moment, because he had on the restart, Noah Tara had a really big lunge at him at turn 1, couldn't quite get it done, and then he got his ears boxed in by both Redmond and Noah Tara, who have now escaped, and now it's the turn of the GTR of Turmo to try and go around the outside of Ascari, and then Steve Warwick's got a fresh set of boots and, a little bit of fuel on board now in a very light car. Turmo's got 2 wheels in the grass. He's going to get it stopped. No. Off he goes through the gravel trap at Ascari, and that probably puts him out of commission for that one. He's going to have a lot of work to do. He's actually going to...
I think Prado's going to get him too.
Yeah, I think Gabriel Prado might potentially nab him here on the run out of the final, on the run to the final corner. He's got a good slipstream, and then Bolger is behind them.
Yeah, he's recovered pretty well from that. He's put the foot down and just gone for it. So he's probably going to get at least a couple more positions, try and stem the bleeding a little bit in terms of his points. But oh, and Greg Tara has gotten past Brendan Ross too. We've missed that overtake off screen, but that is actually important. That's another 5 points for Greg Tara with 8 minutes remaining in the race. That extra 5 points could be critical with championship battle.
Yeah, I've got to do the math here as well. I'm going to start bringing up the mathematics to actually have a look at how this is actually going to start to play out. So as it stands right now, it'd be 50 points for Greg Tara.
Cardo's had a spin into the first corner.
Yep, he has, and that's
no safety car though.
No safety car. He's done that all on his own. I've actually just seen it off screen. He's done that all on his own, and he gets going again. And that now moves Steve Bolger up into 8th place. So as it stands right now, with Bolger in 8th place, he'd attract 23 points. Greg Tara would more than double it. He would get 50 points. So with the 18-point gap that Bolger had coming into the night, you then extend that by 23, which gets him out to what's that, 41. And then you then give Greg Tara 50. So that then cuts that margin down substantially. So Bolger would still be in the lead of the championship, but his advantage would be much, much reduced with the way that it is right now. He needs another spot or two here to really try and minimise the damage that's about to happen, because Tara has got a full head of steam here, and he's got his eyes on his 4th win of the campaign. Remember, it took 4 wins for Steve Bolger to win it last year, but it also took him 4 second places to get the job done with a round to go, ironically, at this place. It's not going to be done tonight, the way things stand, and it's not going to be very easy for Greg Tara in these last 6.5 minutes, because Ross has definitely got the slipstream, and look who's arranging into view here. Here comes the GTR, Tim Redmond, and he's not done with yet either.
Yes, also just to quickly mention, Ben Hall retired from the race. I think we missed that one.
We did.
He ran out of fuel, so it's unfortunate for Ben Hall. He rolled the dice on strategy and unfortunately did not pay off.
Bolger has cleared Turmo, so for Bolger clearing Turmo, there's another 3 points in the bank for Steve Bolger, so it moves him up to 26 total for the night.
In that case, as it stands, it would be a 24-point swing to Greg Tara, which would put him ahead by 6 points.
Yeah, put him in the lead. Sorry, you're right. My math is not sort of working out. I'm trying to do all the mental math in the head and sort of get the broadcast graphics and everything else going along at this rate. So you're right. At this stage, Greg Tara would be in the lead of the championship heading to Bahrain.
The biggest thing at this stage. Greg Tara still has Brendan Ross and Tim Redmond behind me. That being said, Greg Tara has just set the fastest first sector of the race as we come into the closing 5 minutes, 34.4. So he gapped old Brendan Ross a little bit here. He's got more than a second on him, and purple for Redmond in the second sector. So they're starting to push. They're absolutely foot to the floor now. Looks like Brendan Ross had a track cut in there. We haven't seen any track cutting problems, despite a few people taking trips across the chicanes here. So I'm wondering if anyone's close, if anyone's trying to be cautious with that.
Yeah, I think maybe 1 or 2 drivers might be. It looks like Brendan Ross has got at least 2. It looks like Tim Redmond's got 1. Greg Tara's had a couple in there as well. So I think a few drivers need to be a little bit careful. They might be right on the limit. So I think as Greg Tara turns his fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 49.8. So that's a very good time to turn your fastest lap of the race as it starts to wind down. And he's just starting to edge away from Brendan Ross here now. He's got a second on the Porsche. And then Redmond has really started to close in as well. Redmond's last lap was the fastest lap of the race. Sorry, it wasn't the fastest lap of the race. It was a 49.999. And Brendan Ross, we didn't get a lap time for because he got the track cut. Redmond, now, ironically, actually holds the fastest lap of the race at 49.202, which is a stockingly quick lap in race trim.
Yeah, he's done well race. He's sort of deserving of the race win, really, Redmond. He just had the mistake in strategy where, I mean, it was really on him that he should have taken the initiative and gone for that strategy call, but he didn't, so he's got to fight for the first place instead of having a hand into him. And it looks like he's going for it right now as they come down out of the Lesmos. They're side by side, but that GTR just has so much more straight line pace than the Porsche. He's got the move done before the Ascari chicane. So
Yes.
Redmond released to attack Tara.
And he's got probably about 3 laps to do it in as well. So ticking down, just over 3 minutes remain. So they'll complete this lap. They'll do
Reference for the
2 more,
points
and
is-
then it'll be a 1 more after that. So we're going to get, so it'll be 47 laps the duration.
reference for the points. Warwick in 6th place has Bolger behind him, so Bolger looks like he'll get at least 1 more place, probably 2 because Taipan's not far up the road either.
Yeah, here comes that move you were just referring to. So down the inside for Steve Bolger. And no, can't get it done, but Warwick's deep. And he's way
played
too
Warwick
wide.
well there.
Yep.
He's worried him off the road essentially.
Yeah, worried him off the road completely, I'd say. It actually maybe cost Steve Bolger maybe a couple of tenths, and he turns his fastest lap of the race actually as well, 50.037, and needs another set of points, needs to get up to the back of Taipan, and that's probably about as far as he's going to get, barring one of the top 4 falling off the road. Bit of a good drive from Taipan, I would say. He's started in 9th place at the beginning of it all, currently running in 5th and probably set to be 6th once Bolger gets to his rear. But a very, very well measured drive in the car, the manufacturer's car that won this corresponding event 17 months ago. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Taipan play a little bit of defence in the closing stages here, much the same way that Greg Turrer is going to have to, because Redmond's got the margin down to 1.3 seconds. I think it actually is a little bit less than that now. It was 1.3 at the last timing intermediate. It's probably about 0.7 here, I reckon. Close enough, 0.68. So not done yet is this race. 2 more laps to go.
Fastest middle sector from Tim Redmond.
Massively quick middle sector as well, 36.9 for a middle sector for Redmond. And the first sector was his Achilles heel, was a 34.7, and it flipped the other way around. Greg Turrer, in pursuit of win number 4, has got a lot of hard work to do. 1 minute now remains until time expires. 2 more laps to go. Monza putting on another classic finish. Redmond fastest lap of the race, 149.175 with a purple middle sector only. Redmond is absolutely flying at the moment. He's been unleashed since he had to come in and make that fuel stop, and showing no worries with not having to go so late into it, and those new tyres are working an absolute peach for him right now.
Bolger has caught right up to Taipan now, so that one is probably a matter of time. Taipan's got 10 more kilometers basically that he has to try and keep Bolger off him, but it's going to be a struggle. Bolger is on fire at the moment. They've got similar tyres, but yeah, it's going to be really difficult for Taipan. Bolger though has to try and keep it clean, because a mistake here is going to cost him a lot of valuable points that he needs.
Yeah.
So he's being very circumspect at the moment.
Yeah, you can't afford a mistake either here. And look at this, we're about to go back to the lead battle here. Here's this from Redmond's point of view, the top roof mounted camera. He is all over the rear wing of Greg Turrer. He is not going to relent here. Is he going to fire it down the inside at the start of Ascari? No, I think he's going to bide his time here, probably wait till turn 1, and then pull the trigger out of Parabolic and get the slipstream up the front straight. And they probably both get done there. He's gone. Redmond gone. So that might hurt. Is that the break that Greg Turrer needed? I reckon they both got done for a track infringement there at turn number 10. They're both well over the curb, and I would not be surprised to see a curb strike awarded for both of them this time around. I'll keep an eye on the live timing. White flag in the air.
Bolger got Taipan into Ascari, so more points for Bolger there.
Up to 5th place.
Redmond will get another crack here. He will get a little bit of a slipstream here, and he's been a little bit better on the exit of the corner, so he'll probably get another crack at Ascari or Parabolic again, but this will be the most important lap of Greg Turrer's championship. If he loses this race and Bolger's able to pick up just a handy amount of points, it could make it a bit difficult for him in the final round of the championship. So he's really got to take this win here.
I don't think Redmond's got a road to the victory now without a Turrer mistake, because Turrer's mistake out of Lesmo 2 was what got him so close before, and yeah, that mistake in Ascari I think is going to cost him the race.
And Redmond, yeah, he didn't have an ideal run through the first chicane, But Tara this time through the second chicane is actually quite nice. He made a slight mistake last time around, and I think, yeah, barring mistake here, I think you're right here. And he should be able to hold on. The slipstream, he will get a little bit, Will Redmond, this final couple straights, but it's not going to be enough to really draw alongside here. So all Tara has to do really is pull it up at the 2 braking zones.
Yeah, and
There are
it's
2 kilometres to go.
It's the
and
first
4 corners.
It's the first sector where Greg Tara was stronger as well. He was stronger by 0.3 of a second, but it's the second 2 sectors where Tim Redmond is stronger as well. And he's just done that again because it was 0.3 of a second advantage through sector 1 for Greg Tara. It was 0.4 of a second advantage for Redmond through sector 2. But he's not close enough here. He really needs to close this margin down and rely on a mistake from Tara. But it's not going to happen. Through the final corner, Greg Tara with wins in Portugal, with another win at Laguna Seca and another win at Imola. He racks up number 4 at Monza and wins an absolute classic.
Takes the championship lead as well. Redmond comes in 2nd, Brendan Ross 3rd. Noah Tara pushed him all the way for 4th in the end. A good recovery drive, Noah Tara. And speaking of recovery drives, our former championship leader will come across the line.
Oh, look at this, the last one.
Turmo from Taipan, who gets it?
Taipan.
Taipan got it by
Taipan
400ths of a second.
Yeah, 400ths of a second to Taipan's good there for over Turmo. So, good run to the line there. Steve Warwick in home for 8th place. Cam Parrott on debut is going to finish where he started in 9th. And another debutant, Gabriel Prado, is going to come up 2 spots to finish 10th. So, 10 cars through. Then Peter, the roadie's a lap down. And then Peter Thrower is going to be home. He's going to be classed as the lead lap. So, he'll be the last lead lap car home. And roadie having a couple of drive-throughs, having to make that there. We lost Zach Brown late in that one as well. Looks like that was an actual disconnect. Ben Hall out of fuel. Yamamoto, who had some issues trying to serve the drive-through penalty that he got for speeding on pit lane. And Glenn Miles, I think, looks like that might have actually been a disconnect as well. So, big championship implications tonight. I don't think anybody would have seen that coming. I don't think anybody would have seen the trials and tribulations of Steve Bolger. As we said, he was on the front row. Started on the front row, fell all the way down to 15th because of whatever was going on with that PC. I don't think we'll ever hear the end of it. Then got all the way back up to inside the top 3, had another incident, and then recovered back to 5th. So he had some pace on board that car, and I think he probably had the pace to win it. It just did not go according to plan for him tonight.
Yeah, he'll be ruining that. Like the computer issues are obviously out of his hand, but the mistake going into Ascari after the restart with Tara was definitely, I mean, it could be championship defining. I think now, does that put Tara 3 points ahead? I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, we'll do the math, I think. But yeah, looking at Greg Tara taking home 50 points there, and Steve Bolger is going to take home 32 points.
Oh, so they're tied.
So this is so this is a tie. So that's 18 points of difference between those 2 points. So this is a straight up bring your guns to a gunfight coming into the final round in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a winner take all going into Bahrain. Who could have scripted this? Flood, you've missed out on an absolute classic, and he's going to be chomping at the bit to actually be in the seat for Bahrain in about 3 weeks, because I don't think we've ever had a title fight where the title combatants are tied going into the final round.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get any closer than that at all. Turmo is out of championship contention now, as we mentioned would probably happen.
Officially he is, correct.
But I don't think he's locked in 3rd though, because Noah Tara finished ahead of him, so that 3rd place in the championship is still up for grabs with Noah and Turmo. But yeah, the main battle that people are going to want to see come Bahrain, Bolger Tara tied on points. I believe Greg Tara ahead on count back because of his 4 wins.
Correct, yeah. At this stage,
So
that's how it would currently sit. If it was the way that it was going to be. Yeah, Bolger with 3 wins, Tara with 4, as they're currently tied. Yeah, it would be advantage to Greg Tara if they were still tied on points at the end of the night. So, but we'll have to see how that's going to pan out. But Bagsy, I don't know where we want to start with this one. There's so many storylines up and down this pit lane, but I mean, we've only got 3 men to talk to. Who are we going to start with?
think we'll go with third place man, Brendan Ross. Rossi, it was a bit of a strange race for you. I think you sort of were there and thereabouts after that safety car, but for the rest of it, you were pretty much connected to Warwick and Termo, but they fell by the wayside, and you were able to bring yourself up to the podium. What part of your strategy do you think contributed to that?
First of all, how good's Monza? Monza is an absolute beauty of a race.
Agreed.
But yeah, that Tomo and Steve battle, that was good fun being able to tag along with them. I've been calling it all day. The little Porsche hasn't got any legs. It's about 15k slower down the straight, but really needed to hang on to the back of Tomo and Steve there. It was a lot of fun hiding behind them, but it played on my favor because I was saving a lot of fuel. I think I was getting 6.8, 6.7, and then just randomly asked Tomo, and he said he was getting 7.6 or something, where they should normally be doing about 8s on theirs. So knew coming into the season, talking to Lewis and Luke, that the Porsche was pretty good on fuel, so there was a slight chance today. And then when it come down to, I was surprised Greg actually made it as far as he did, knowing that those cars chugged some fuel, so he did well to make it as far as he did. But when Greg made it to the hour mark, I knew I was in the zone following him, and then sort of had to make a bit of pace in the second stint. I managed to pull that extra lap on Greg then, and all the other leaders come in before the half-hour mark. So I knew from there we were in for a chance, but that safety car sort of ruined it for us. The disadvantage down the straights really hurt us there. Tried to hold on, but I think third's as best as I could do in that position. But yeah, how good's Monza?
Yeah, definitely. We did see that middle stint you did. That extra lap really made the difference in terms of getting ahead of Greg initially, and seeing it's being described as a heroic drive to get the Porsche on the podium. I think that's Lewis describing it like that, and it was quite surprising, honestly, to see a Porsche up there. So very well raced today.
That was fun to get the Porsche in the position it was, considering where it sits on the level of all the other cars. So it was probably one of my better drives that I've done in the last couple of months to a year. Had a couple of good drives now, so hopefully getting back in the groove.
Very well done, Rossi. We'll go to our second place man, Tim Redmond. Tim, you looked like you had that race all in your hands up until that safety car. Were you considering pitting before that safety car just to top up and run to the end, or was the plan always to try and do a splash and dash close to the end of the race?
The plan was definitely to try and push out and see how long I could take it towards the end and try and minimize that last stint. The safety car definitely did throw a curveball in the sense that probably pitted a little earlier than I wanted to. I was really trying to manage that gap, and I really lost that advantage when the safety car came out because I had to go and do another lap around behind the safety car before the pits opened. So we ended up coming out, I think, roughly about 5th or 6th place, and so I had some work to do ahead of me. I knew it was going to be a sprint to the finish. Yeah, no, it was a good one. Certainly enjoyed it. Well done, Greg, of course. You've taken the top spot today.
So was there ever any thought of making it through to the end with that safety car, or was the GTR just sucking down the fuel too hard?
It was sucking down the fuel too hard. I think I was doing 8.5 liters a lap. So there was no way I was going to get to the finish line. As it was, I had to do a top up either way. So took the opportunity while we were under safety car to do that. And yeah, like I said, it was just a sprint to the finish from there on out. Feeling a bit gutted though. I think I was probably overdriving it a bit on the last couple of laps there. Yeah.
Yeah, we did see the little moment into Ascari on the penultimate lap. Was that just getting a little bit happy on the throttle coming out at the end of Ascari, or was that were you just a bit wide there?
I was anticipating the corner and had no vision with the car in front of me, so ended up turning in slightly early and had to sort of completely back out at that point, and it threw me off. Yeah, like I said, it was still really good and still really enjoyed it. It was just a bit gutting because I really had some car pace tonight. So yeah, I really wanted to give Greg a go for that line, that's all.
Well, a very well raced recovery back to second after that safety car through the spanner in the works, and well done tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
And now on to our new championship leader, Greg Tara. Greg, I'm sure after the initial start when and
or I mean, you made the statement in qualifying, setting the fastest lap with no tow whatsoever, after Noah selfishly took the tow for himself and then parked it for the
Oh,
rest
no,
of
that
the.
was all right.
But but you made the statement with that initial qualifying lap, and then it seemed like the race was sort of it was a bit of a struggle for most of it until that final safety car, and then you sort of seemed to the car came back to you. It seemed.
Just fuel saving, 100% all the time, and that was really. It's hard to get into a fuel saving rhythm when you start getting mired down in little battles that other people are having, because you can't lift and coast for 200 meters and expect people to know what's going on in front of them. So I had to sort of just let possibly slower cars go in front of me just to avoid maybe getting a punt up the backside, and I was just really I was hitting my fuel numbers. My lap times weren't great. They were consistent for a lot of the time, but yeah, I had some bad ones in there, and I don't ever want to have to drive a race car like that again for an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's it's fair enough. The were you aware of the troubles that Bolger was having in the background and through the race, or were you just concentrating on your own race?
Yeah, well, I knew something was up because I was letting him by probably lap 2, and he was in front of me, and then he was behind me, and then he just, I don't know, he disappeared. And I've had that in the past where you start warping in and out of places in the game, and it's like you just pause and then you lose 20 seconds or whatever. So that was a bit of a bummer, actually, because I think Steve would have been on for the win today as far as pace and fuel economy goes. I don't think the Beamer had it in it to go fast enough around here and fuel save at the same time. Like it's just so flat and it's full throttle. You can't avoid using the throttle, so you've got to meet in the middle somewhere. And I think I would have been, without the safety car, I think I would have been still all right. But it would have been, the last lap would have been real tight.
We did see after the safety car, you got that bit of a nudge from Bolger that sent him round more than you. After that point, were you fairly confident, or was Tim Redmond a fairly major trouble for you?
Sorry, had pretty good pace early in the race, and my car, for whatever reason, I'd fiddled with the pressures because the temp had gone up, like the track temp, and I think it only adjusted the fronts in the pits. So my car took about 3 laps to come good after each stop and after the safety car. And I saw, it took me a little while to get past Rossi. And then I saw him in the mirrors, and I think he put in the fastest lap of the race with 2 to go or something. So yeah, I was just trying to keep it smooth and just keep him as out of the tow as much as possible, like that 1 second plus kind of gap. But he got pretty close.
Yeah. Final question. Stop taking up your time. Going into Bahrain, we've got 2 races there. You're tied on points with Bolger. How confident are you feeling going into that race? And how are you going to approach it in terms of, the fact that you've got 2 races that you have to go head to head against Bolger? It's essentially winner takes all now.
I heard something about a countback, so there might be shades of 94 Adelaide about the place. Nah, but yeah, I don't know until I get there. If it's anything like Magny Core, it's gonna be tight again on fuel because I won't be able to drive flat out. There's no safety cars because it's sprint rounds. I have no idea. I'm just gonna have to try and make the full 30 minutes without a pit stop, basically, and be in front of Bolger.
Fair enough. Well, another good race win tonight. It's definitely left the championship in the balance. So, well done. And
Yeah, thanks. I really enjoyed that.
And we'll go back to Nether for the wrap up.
Thanks, Bagsy. I just listening to Greg Tara there. I think he couldn't have summed it up any better. Basically, it's you got to try and make it last at the next round. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about it. And the 94 Adelaide was a nice little touch there as well. Well done, Greg. Let's have a quick look at the driver standings before we wrap up for the night. So this is what it was coming into the night with 8 of the 10 rounds completed. It was an 18-point deficit at the top of the standings. This is what it is now. We have not only one, but 2 ties in the top 12 standings there. So we have got, of course, Bolger and Turra tied on the points, but of course at this stage it goes to Greg Turra on a count back. Just haven't had a chance to sort of update a couple of things there at short notice. Termo officially out of championship contention, but is in the thick of the battle for 4th and 3rd with Noah Turra. So that could still change hands between now and the next round at Bahrain when it's all said and done. Lewis Wedding, realistically, could still jump up as high as 4th, depending on what happens to Noah Turra, but mathematically he could, but there's still a few issues there. And Luke Rosella and Steve Warwick is the other tie on points in there. So you can see there Rosella missing a round tonight, and he's now tied with Warwick, who's done all the rounds. Redmond with his with his second place, jumping up the order as well. Higginson, who missed tonight. Taipan now cracks the century, as does Brendan Ross, who was outside the top 12 coming into the night and is now in 12th place on the standings. So, all to play for. Winner takes all in Bahrain, under lights in Bahrain, we should say. Who is going to be the GT3 World Champion for ASR for 2021? We'll find out in a couple of weeks. Until then, please drive safely, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.